See, I wasn't an enthusiast back then.
Oh, you weren't.
No,
so yeah, now I'm busting you out.
It took me a while to get there, and I'm sorry. Oh, we're live. Hi everyone, and welcome to Newegg TV, or more appropriately, our Twitch channel, at least as of right now when we're filming this. This is a live build video. So we've brought JJ in here. He has graciously brought along a lot of, or pretty much all the hardware that you can see out here in front of us. So JJ and I are going to build a couple computers. JJ has a big water-cooled computer over there. I have a small air-cooled computer over here. We're basing them on the Maximus 6 Formula motherboard that's over on JJ's side, and then I will be building with the Maximus 6 Impacts right here, the new ROG Mini ITX board. So apart from that, our live streams are typically pretty casual and open, and we will be monitoring the chat and answering some questions. And Jenny is also here. She's going to be getting some questions, and
I will be reading Paul the questions.
She'll be reading the questions. That way, you know, we can keep building and all that good stuff. And I think that just about wraps it up. So we should go over the hardware, I think, maybe.
I think that sounds like a plan to me.
Take a look at the hardware. So sure. Should we start with your system over there? Apart from the Maximus 6 Formula, we're of course using Intel Core i7-4770K processors. But what else do you have?
So I got a couple of different things. So I guess up here at the top, you guys will see that I got a Coolants Exos. This is the EXE2. This is the EXT2 755. So this is an integrated water cooling system. It's got the pump, the reservoir, the radiator. It's all internal inside there. And then I'll also be using that with a Coolants water block. This guy little right here. So nice. This will be the Coolants 380i. So that's what I'll be using for the CPU. And I'll be setting up a complete loop setup. So we're going to cool the board using the cross-chill VRM cooling solution on here, along with the CPU. I got a Corsair C70 chassis in the black. I think it looks pretty cool with this type of build. We've got a Corsair AX 850 watt power supply to go ahead and keep everything as far as the power duties. GTX 780 DirectX TU2 graphics card. So it's the box, got the GPU right here.
JJ said duty.
And from there, I've got 16 gigabytes of Corsair Dominator Platinum memory. I think it's down here somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Got some 2400 modules.
It's the good stuff right there.
And from there down here, because I'm a Blu-ray fiend, I'm gonna be popping in an Asus Blu-ray 14X Blu-ray writer DVD combo drive.
Beautiful.
And I think that probably covers. Oh wait,
video card?
No. Need my storage.
Oh, right, we did.
So I got a
video card.
Corsair Neutron GTX 240 gigabyte SSD. So that pretty much wraps me up in terms of all my core components. Beautiful.
So again, JJ's doing a water-cooled system over there. I will be doing a system here. Now, JJ brought all these parts along, so I think I can work out most of them. But for starters, chassis I'm going to be working with is this guy right here. This is a BitPhoenix Prodigy. It's the Mini ITX version.
In the red.
In red, yeah. So red and black to go along with the Asus ROG colors. Maximus 6 Impact Mini ITX motherboard, of course. JJ brought along an assortment of BitPhoenix Spectre fans.
Yeah, so we got, I think, some white fans to go in there to give us a little bit of contrast.
And these are LEDs. So this is like my decision here.
Yeah, that's how much you want to bling it out, stylize the system.
All right, we even got a BitPhoenix Alchemy, a couple LED strips here as well. So that's nice.
And then you got the large intake white fan as well that would go for.
Oh yeah, this is the big old white fan for the front right there. That's
is that a technical term, Paul?
230 what?
Big old white fan.
Big old, yeah.
That's as
exactly
technical as it gets right there.
Term?
Large, substantial, voluminous, etc. BitPhoenix Alchemy. LED strips right there. I'm confused now. This cooler, which JJ is working, this is a brand new company?
Yeah, brand new company. I've been testing these guys out. This is the Themis. This is from Regentech. It's a high performance direct contact heat pipe based cooling solution. It's got a really nice contrast in terms of the red and white, so I think it goes really good with this build. So it's going to give us the overclocking margin that we need.
All right, so air cooling right there. We got some Mushkin components right here. Mushkin Redline enhanced memory. So
yeah, those are 8 gig DIMMs. So that's a 16 gigabyte DDR3 2400 kit. So those guys are monsters.
This is that's a beautiful set right there.
Yeah.
And the red line, very substantial heat sinks as well. Mushkin Kronos 240 gig SSD for a video card. Going to also be using the GTX 780. JJ wanted to use both of the 780s in his build, and I was like, well, I want a 782.
So I decided to give him one. So I'm not doing SLI because of Paul. So just keep that.
I know. That's all right. But at the end, we could take my card and put it in his case, and it'll still work out. Okay. And then for power, Seasonic 650 watt. This is their G Series 80 Plus Gold.
Yeah, really nice PSU. I really like it. It's efficient. It's quiet. It's modular. I think it's a really nice PSU.
Nice. So yeah, I love Seasonic power supplies. Chances are you might have a Seasonic power supply, even if you don't know you have a Seasonic power supply.
That is generally right.
That's just how it goes. And then, of course, again, since JJ's a Blu-ray fiend, we've also got another, oh, it's upside down, another Asus 14-speed Blu-ray.
No, that one's BC12B1ST, so that's your classic Blu-ray combo and DVD-RW.
Blu-ray combo drive right there. And I think that's all of our hardware that we have arrayed here in front of us. So
and you can get it all at Newegg.
Of course you can. I'm sure we have links prepared for all of these things. If we don't have links prepared, it's not our fault. It's the people behind the scenes. Wait, we shouldn't be blaming the people behind the scenes. They're excellent.
Yes.
I take full responsibility.
They make the magic happen.
But go ahead and search any of these products on Newegg, and you will surely find them. And
I have our first question from our viewers. Okay. Someone has noticed that I sound like I have Black Death.
Yeah.
And I do. I have a chest cold. I sound terrible. I'm sorry. Please
I think she sounds much nicer
me.
in person, guys. So.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
You've never actually heard me, but like I just met JJ today.
Yeah.
Then it only gets better, right?
Jenny's a little under the weather. JJ's actually also a little under the weather, so we're working through sickness here.
Okay. Question for JJ, how important is persistent static protection, aka wrist straps, etc.?
You know, that's actually a really good question, and it's interesting because it really varies depending on where you are actually across the country. Your altitude and proximity to how close you are in relation to different types of areas, and the humidity that you have will actually give you different levels of static. So like over for me in Northern California where we're located, it's actually very, very minimal, the likelihood to actually get static discharge, so it's not something you have to worry about. But you know, what I tell people is just, you know, be precautionary, take a little bit of sensibility. So regardless of where you are, just, you know, be mindful of that. You know, make sure to ground yourself beforehand, and you know, you'll probably be more often than not, you're going to be okay. But it is something that regardless of wherever you're building, always keep it in mind, so you should be mindful of it. Yeah,
the best way to do static discharge is to have a power supply that's powered off but plugged into the wall. Touching the chassis of that should static discharge you. And I've told people in the past, but I'd like to ask you as well. My way of saying it is like, if you find yourself like the Office Space thing where you go up and like you get zapped by a doorknob or something like that, if you find yourself constantly getting shocked by static electricity just in your day-to-day walking around, then you should be take more precautions.
I definitely would agree with that. And I mean, it's also cheap enough. You can buy anti-static mats that are pretty inexpensive too, so that if you're doing a lot of building or you want to be really considerate, I mean, keep in mind, like, you could have a build that's $1,500 or $1,800. It's worth maybe investing in a $20 or $30 mat just to be able to do your work on. Or you could buy an anti-static wristband. They even have ones that are actually entirely wireless. They actually use certain compounds within them to be able to dissipate the actual static field.
Nice.
So you don't even have to have it actually physically attached to something. So if you don't want to be restricted, you can do that. So it's always something to keep in mind.
JJ, what case are you using again?
I'm going to be using the Corsair C70.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's been out for a while. It's available in several different colors, right?
Yeah, they've got it in like an army fatigue green, which looks really good with the saber tooth board.
Really cool.
And then they have it in this black, which is the one I've gone ahead and utilized.
Is that in this?
CPU heatsink clearance for InWin's D-frame. Wow, that's a good question.
I've found that if you have anything larger than about like a Noctua NHU12S, then it will still fit, but the thing you won't be able to do is you won't be able to put the tempered glass side panel onto it. So if you look up the dimensions on something like a Noctua U12S in terms of that height clearance, if you probably shaved off, I'd say maybe about like 2 centimeters, then you would be entirely fine, and you could put the side, the tempered side glass on there. If you don't care about putting the side panel on there, then there is no clearance restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used the side panel in so long because we've just been using it as an open test bed.
I think it looks awesome, though, to be honest. I think it is an amazing looking case when you do put actually on the side panel. So I think that's actually a really good question. So I can crack open my stuff here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we should just be building.
Talk and build.
All right.
We gotta get these assembled. We got a delivery or an order, right?
Okay.
Somebody ordered these custom builds.
I suppose. Is pre-made water cooling units such as the H100i as good as a complete custom-made loop?
No.
Or is there a large difference?
There's a pretty large difference in terms of the overall dissipative abilities of the cooling solution. You know, I would say it's not even a minor difference, it's a substantial difference.
Yep.
Closed loop cooling solutions, you know, like an H100, H100i, H80i, they're very solid and they're going to offer a good quality margin in terms of overclockability. But compared to, say, something like this coolants unit, even though they have a smaller version, which is only 2 fans and a smaller radiator, would still offer much better performance.
I would agree. In my experience, the closed-loop water coolers give a pretty substantial improvement. The nicer ones, the ones with larger radiators, will give you a nice boost over your typical air coolers, apart from, say, the most top-of-the-line ones.
Yeah. The other thing, though, you have to keep in mind, too, though, is that with closed-loop water cooling solutions, they restrict the amount of airflow that's going to be present for the VRM assembly. So
yes.
You guys are looking like a picture of this board here, right? This top section right here, if you had like an H100 installed in this, it's going to keep that CPU really nice and cool. But this VRM section right here might not necessarily get as much airflow. So you might have to consider in making sure that your system is set up so to have airflow circulate across that area. On some systems, it's more important than others. Like X79 is very sensitive in terms of the VRM assembly. If you overclock it heavily, you want to keep that area nice and cool. Z87, Z77, AMD, maybe not as much, but you still always want to try to have airflow for your VRM. So it is something to consider that's different between an air-cooled and a closed-loop solution.
Okay. We have a question. How do you reduce the noise of a hard disk drive, or do you?
I think most modern generation drives are actually fairly quiet, but easiest probably is to try to, I mean, I guess it varies on your chassis,
like
right?
The little silicone mounts can help reduce noise from the circular spinning and vibration, but I mean, if your drive is making like the click-seek noise, there's no real way around that.
Yeah. Well, you can, there are sometimes actually tools from different companies. Take for instance, like Hitachi does offer, Hitachi's what's called feature tool.
Okay.
This will actually allow you to slow down the RPM of the actual drive.
Oh.
So in some situations, if you don't want to be able to control the drive's actually RPM rate, you'll lose a little bit of performance, but you could quiet down the drive.
Oh.
But one of the easiest ways is definitely your chassis and the type of suspension mechanism or the tray that it uses, if it's got some form of like padding or like silicone grommets, can help to absorb a lot of the vibration.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is resonant space chassis. A lot of people don't realize that the vibration can get echoed throughout your chassis.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes getting maybe some like dampening material to put on your side panels can help you a lot too.
JJ, what are your favorite fans?
Oh, wow. Somebody asked a question very near and dear to my heart.
You're supposed to say all of you out there.
Oh, that's a good
answer. All of you.
You know what? That is out there actually a lot of. Yes, definitely all you guys. But I guess if we're talking about cooling, wow, that's a tough one. I really like Noctua's fans. I think that overall, in terms of the build quality, the performance that's offered, they're outstanding. But you know, Corsair's AF series fans are actually really nice too.
Mm-hmm.
They have nice options that are more performance oriented. They're quiet. But I've kind of come to the realization for a lot of fans out there that fan controls matter maybe a little bit more than the fan itself. If I can customize the profile of how the fan is responding depending on the RPM that it's running at, that's going to allow my fan to be quiet when I need it to be and provide me airflow when I need it. So that makes, I think, a big difference is how you can control your fans.
Yeah, I just recently picked up a couple more. They used to be Scythes. Scythe doesn't import to the US anymore, at least from my understanding, although you can get them under a different brand name, which I've totally blanked on right now.
It's okay.
The Gentle Typhoons, are also pretty fantastic. Probably still a step or two below the Noctuas. Those seem to be kind of cream of the crop.
Yeah, I mean, they do a huge amount of R&D work on their fans for everything from not only the design but the bearings. Silverstone's got some actually really nice units as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think a lot of it comes down to it, like a lot of things, you know, the quality of the vendor that you're buying from usually is going to be representative of a lot of those products. If you're buying like a cheap fan that's like $4, you're probably not getting that great of a fan in terms of the bearing, the construction, the tonality. But if you're spending probably $15, $20 for a fan, you're probably going to get a lot more.
I think it also pays to pay attention to the use case for the fan. Buying pressure optimized fans for radiators, buying airflow optimized fans for your air intakes and outtakes can also make a huge difference. But like a lot of cases, you might look at a case and it might be fairly inexpensive, and that case might still come with 2 or 3 fans. But I found inexpensive cases, while they can be totally functional for build-wise, but you're definitely seeing where they're cutting the cost a lot of the time with the fans that are included. So swapping out fans that are included by default in cases can often be a great way to reduce the amounts of noise that the system generates overall, and also improve your airflow and reduce your temperatures.
What kind of screwdriver is that, Paul?
This is one of JJ's.
Oh yeah, I'm a big screwdriver guy. For you guys that ever build a system, don't cheap out on a cheap screwdriver. I'm personally really a fan of Wera and Wiha in terms of the overall screws. This is actually a company that they come from Spain. They're actually kind of a subsidiary of Snap-on. They're Babco, but they use really, really high quality base materials. It's entirely forged. It goes through the entire handle. It's ergonomically designed. You can get them. You can find them online. They're pretty reasonable. They're about like $7 to $10 per screwdriver, so maybe a little bit pricier than a normal screwdriver, but it makes a big difference, I feel, in the quality of the build experience.
Probably lasts a lot longer too.
Yeah, oh for sure. And the tips don't erode, which I'm sure Paul's like me, like when we're screwing in tons and tons of stuff.
I have so many like stripped out screwdrivers.
Yeah, the tips on like a cheap screwdriver will just wear out very easily over time.
What would be a good upgrade to my HD 6670? I only play on 720p and have a A8 5600K APU.
That's a fairly specific question.
6670? Well, I guess it's hard without knowing what your budget would be, right?
Yeah.
But I would say in relation to the processor...
Which one?
6670. I'd probably say the 7790 would be a very good jump up in terms of the performance. You'd be getting over generally twice the frame rate, but keeping the cost fairly reasonable, and not necessarily more GPU than the CPU can provide in terms of the APU's frequency. So
they're using an A8 5600K APU.
Yeah, I'd still say 77090 if you're an NVIDIA guy, then probably like GTX 650 Ti.
Yeah.
Ti
I wouldn't go too far beyond that as far as your upgrade though, because you'll probably end up being a bit bottlenecked on the CPU side.
I mean, you'd be bottlenecked, but you're still going to get the frame rate increase. You're just not going to see all of it.
Okay.
By the way, this is my first time ever building in a BitPhoenix Prodigy, so I'm handicapped here totally. It's my excuse in case.
I totally did not realize that I had taken the screws out of this chassis, so now I have to find screws.
Oh, the standoffs?
Yeah. No, I've got standoffs, but I just need to find the...
I have a grip of screws over there if you need to search through them.
I think I got enough here, though.
You know what I did like 2 weeks ago before I moved? I just moved recently, by the way. In case any of you happen to check out like my channel or Kyle's personal channels, I haven't posted anything in about a week and a half. It's because I moved.
Excuses, Paul.
Successfully, and I love to make excuses. But you should also check out JJ's channel if you have not. Asus Illuminati. He posts lots of videos. It's to the extent where you don't even realize it. You're like, hey, JJ's been posting videos. Hey,
yeah,
he's already got more than I do in like a month.
It's more community driven. Really, my goal was to try to just add kind of a forum to be able to answer a lot of people's questions and feedbacks. Like people ask me like, what's the difference between like the Maximus 6 Impact and like the Z77-i? Right? Oh. You know, and it's about trying to give context when people ask questions about like performance and features. So it's more so outside of like our normal Asus RG or what we would do here at Newegg, more so just kind of trying to give you guys information as users. So hopefully it helps to do that.
I had a water cooler question.
Water cooler.
Let's scroll back up. Is there a big percentage of leaking for custom water coolers and closed loop coolers? I guess that depends on how good you are at building.
Yeah, if it's custom, that's going to be on you. I mean,
yeah, if you're using good quality fittings and good quality tubing, I would say it's a very low percentage of that. And same thing, I'd say in the closed loop cooling solutions, there's going to be a pretty low likelihood of it leaking. The times that I've seen it most leaking is when people get a little bit aggressive with sometimes bending the actual cabling and the preset tubing, and sometimes they'll cause a little bit of flex or tearing, and that's where the leaking ends up occurring, but not because it's like inherently a not reliable design.
Yeah, like check your cooler out of the box. If there's no leaking right then, chances are you'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, it always helps to reality check from time to time. Just take a peek and, hey, that was my screwdriver.
Oh, really?
No.
I can give you back this one. Actually, I like the longer one.
Someone asked what these systems are being built for.
For fun.
I asked that question too.
For fun.
I said just because.
For everyone's entertainment. Here, to show you guys how easy it is to build a mini ITX system with the ROG Impact. Or something to that effect. Sure hope it.
All right, found my screws.
Oh. Oh lordy. Oh. Oh lordy.
Paul, have you ever used the Cooler Master? Is that half X in water?
Half X?
Half X, HAFX in water and cooling situations?
I have used the half X. I have not used it in water cooling situations. Half X actually I haven't used in like
the original half X?
Yeah.
It's a good chassis for water cooling.
Yeah.
I find that I don't really have any issues with it. It's big, it's roomy. It's got a lot of room and flexibility for internally mounting different types of radiators and pumps and fan configurations. I think it's kind of like almost become a classic chassis in the same way that like the TJO series from Silverstone has become for people that want to have water cooling setups. Do you got thermal compound?
I do. Right here.
Thank you, sir.
Is it dangerous to use a magnetic screwdriver while building a PC?
No.
No. Anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong. All the what is it like? Anything that's going to have like memory bits that are magnetic is going to be shielded, and the amounts of magnetism.
Yeah, you would need a huge amount of magnetism for it to be an issue. Which
that's not to say you shouldn't be careful with normal magnets around a PC, because those can seriously mess things up.
Yeah.
But something like the tip of a screwdriver, it's just it's fine. And I much prefer magnetic tip screwdrivers, especially for like putting screwing in the motherboard to the standoffs.
See where I put that.
Paul, when did you first build a PC?
When did I first build a PC?
Oh my god.
What? What happened?
I'm sorry. No, I had flashbacks to my very first build.
To your first build?
That's okay.
When was your first? They want to know when yours was too, JJ.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. When I was, I think, 14, my dad was like, "Hey, we should get a computer," and so we went and got an HP. I think it was like a 486DX. That was a pre-built computer. It was one of those flat ones with the monitor sits on top of. And that's when I started doing a little bit of tinkering. I think I upgraded the memory on it and one or two other things. And then by like 96 or so was when I decided I should do my own. And I got a bare bones from Fry's, actually. I think it was a AMD K6 450.
Build and reminisce, Paul.
Yeah, that was my first. I remember it was beige. It had a beige chassis and a distinct turquoise flip-down cover on the front for, I guess, for the optical drive. It was before DVD burners, because I remember, or before CD burners, because I remember getting a standalone external CD burner. It was about that long, the entire unit.
Yeah, the parallel port, SCSI.
Yeah, I think I bought an add-on SCSI card to connect my CD burner that I got. But I got my money.
Was it a teak?
Oh, wow.
Might have been a teak.
I can't remember. Gosh, that was so long ago. I remember finding it, though. Like, I had stopped using it. I had stored it away because I probably got some newer burner. And I found it like years later. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's huge. But JJ, I'm really curious your answer for that.
Oh man, mine would be really long. But I guess long story short, components have come down a lot in pricing, and when I first built it, I came from pretty meager beginnings as far as my family, so we didn't have a lot of money.
Yep.
And my brother, I had just moved in with my dad from living with my mom, and he decided he wanted a computer, and but he didn't really know about it, and so he'd spent a lot of time with his friend to research getting a system, and his friend was helping him through the whole process. But let's just say his friend was of questionable character and reliability. And so they ended up getting all the parts after my brother saving money and kind of individually buying all the items. And he left the systems kind of on our doorstep one day, and he kind of just disappeared. And so my brother was stuck with a system that he didn't know anything about. And I had already, a lot of people don't know, but I guess when I was really, really young, I'm a twin. And me and my twin sister, we didn't speak for a really long time, and my mom thought we were autistic, and they put us into a special school for autistic and deaf children. So I went through a lot of special curriculum, and one of the things that was really early on in that curriculum was learning about actually computers, because they thought it was a great way to teach kids with speaking disabilities.
Okay.
And so long story short, I got really fascinated about actually computers because I had a lot of first memories of working with computers. And so by the time this had happened, my brother got the computer and he was left with it, and I told him, well, let me try to see if I can figure it out. And so I got together all the hardware. And it was funny, when we took it off the porch, I put it in and laid it all out, and I was starting to read the manual and trying to get this all done. And some cockroaches came out of actually one of the boxes.
Oh.
And so there was a huge flurry of all kinds of stuff, and so then there was this this insane run around to kind of try to check everything and make sure it didn't have stuff inside of it, and we had to wait until we felt that there was nothing in anything. And but I eventually got everything all put together, and it was actually one of the ways that I became really passionate in the long run about Asus, because the first board I ever built off was an Asus P2B board.
Ah, nice.
So from that standpoint, like I kind of got bit by the bug of building my own system and being able to kind of always kind of tweak it and mess with it, and I learned a lot from that, and I just kept evolving into that. So
not the cockroach, right?
Yes, thankfully I wasn't bitten by any cockroaches. But yeah, I spent a lot of time building and tweaking that system, and just kept evolving from there.
I had a system, this is, I don't know, the cockroach thing kind of reminded me of. I had a system that didn't have an I/O shield on the back, and I had a mouse. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. I had a mouse that crawled up the back through the gap in the I/O shield, and the mouse was apparently camping in my computer for a while. I found some of its leavings in there, but I think it was during the winter, and it was a nice warm place for the mouse to hide. So that's, always use an I/O shield, folks. You never know what might crawl into your computer.
Don't remind me about those things. Back when I used to do private consultation and system integration, I saw some very interesting things inside of people chassis.
And a couple...
what do you think, Paul? Do you like those compression fittings, or do you like the classic black compression fittings?
Well,
I kind of like the black, but I kind of like the red. What do people out there think? Do
that's
they
a good question.
Do they like
Guys,
one?
what do you
I guess
think?
I could let people pick.
Yeah.
Let the people though. People power, right?
Let the people decide.
People power, man.
Tell me. I've got 2 questions for you, JJ.
Sure.
What graphics card can you compare to the Gigabyte Radeon HD 7870? That's the first one.
I'd say it's pretty easy. An Asus 7870.
That's a pretty direct answer.
And
better quality PCB. VRM is superior. It's got a dust-proof base fan.
Oh, remind me to ask you that that question we were talking about earlier. After we've done a few more.
Also, will the Thunderbolt add-in card ever be available for the Asus Z77 series motherboard?
That's a really good question, and it's one that I wish I could give you an answer to. We've completed actually all our validation and testing for the card. We submitted it to Intel, as Intel requires all Thunderbolt-based devices to be validated and verified by them. So it's really kind of out of our hands at this point. We've done all our testing and analysis on the card, and feel everything works entirely okay, but at this point it's pretty much kind of waiting to decide what direction Intel wants to go with that.
What are the pros and cons of getting a mini ITX computer?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that there's really that many cons anymore, especially with a board like the Impact, where you get literally everything you could possibly want, even improved sound, right? So I think it just comes down to the fact that really the only area that you're compromising on is slot expansion, right? On my Formula board, I've got multiple PCI slots, and I could run multiple GPUs. And something like a BitPhoenix Prodigy, you're limited to just 1 GPU, and so you don't have any flexibility to have expansion. But even with storage, our Impact board has essentially up to 5 ports that can be used for onboard storage, and our Dash I Deluxe has 6 ports. So even in storage, you're not really diminished that much. But desktop boards, of course, you could have a board like our X79 Deluxe board, which has 12 SATA ports. Right?
Yeah. Sometimes there's like thermals to take into consideration depending on how much hardware you want to pack inside. You have a smaller space. You have less.
That's a good point.
You have lesser. No, you don't steal the Impact. I need that.
He was in the way of the Prodigy on this camera, so I didn't want it to be blocking you.
Okay. Thanks.
He's just showing how much he cares.
He's just jealous. Kyle's jealous. He loves mini ITX
Kyle
boards.
is our man behind the curtain today.
But you make a really good point, Paul. I think that it's probably a more complex system that you have to consider as a whole when you're setting up a mini ITX, as far as things like thermals, space, and layout. Yeah. And I also agree, if you're taking a look at all the boards, generally there is a consideration that overclockability
and certain expansion parameters are going to be a little bit more constrained. But I at least feel that there's enough mini ITX solutions that as a whole, from the quality, the overclockability, and the expansion, at least not relative to PCIe cards or storage, is going to be about just as good, right? When you talk about number of USB ports, integrated wireless, and all those things to a desktop-based board.
Very true.
Okay.
You see my wrench?
All right, I made a custom PC, and sometimes it randomly freezes for a few seconds. Does my is my HDD bad, or does my HDD have bad blocks, or is it my motherboard?
Well, that's a tricky one. That, you know, stuttering could be really a lot of different things. What I will say is, in my experience, one of the most common things that a lot of users forget to do is install primary drivers, like their chipset driver, their SATA drivers.
Yeah.
This can impact sometimes system stability, so it's something you would want to check on. Another thing that a lot of people don't ever use, and it's in part of the Windows operating system, is things that are called like the problem tool and the performance and the reliability monitor. You can actually track your system's reliability over time, and it can sometimes give you a lot of insight into where your system may be having problems. So I would probably recommend taking a look at that, as well as making sure you have your chipset drivers and your SATA drivers installed. As a last thing, if you want to check your hard drive, assuming it's a mechanical drive, you can get different programs. Just search for online something that's called like a smart monitor, and it can help you to check the smart data on your hard drive, which is like a pacemaker for your hard drive, and it'll give you information about the temperature, the reliable of operation, how many errors are being recovered on your drive, things like that. So if your drive is maybe on its way as far as failing, you might be able to preemptively find that out.
Okay.
I can't find my wrench, but I'll work with it.
I didn't see a wrench. Is it?
I did. I had one. It must have been Kyle.
Kyle probably took it.
That's okay.
Does replacing?
Do you wanna? I have pliers. That might help.
No, it's all right. I'll make it work.
Oh.
Where did it go? Oh gosh.
Yep, that would be done.
It was.
There we go.
Does
It was Kyle.
replacing JJ? Does replacing stock VRM and chipset heat sinks on the Rampage 4 Extreme with water blocks void the warranty?
It does not void the warranty. We're pretty flexible about those items. As long as the board does not feature any type of physical damage from your installation process, meaning that like you don't like nick or crack something or scratch something, then you're entirely fine. But you just removing it to replace it with water blocks will not void the warranty.
All right, Paul, you gotta talk about the giant white fan.
I do.
Yeah,
I've-
big old fan. What is
this
it?
is a big old.
Who makes it?
This
What
is
size
a big old
is it?
fan by BitPhoenix. It's 230 millimeter. I have not ever worked with this fan personally before, and I'm confused as what this extra stuff is around the outside.
You know, there's a, you know, Paul, I hate to break it to you, but there's a thing that's called a manual, and it's generally included.
That's
Generally,
that is a.
generally included inside the box.
That's where I go after I've exhausted all other possibilities.
You know, that's horrible, man. There's somebody that worked really, really hard on writing that, you know, and it generally will answer your question.
All right, let me just get the manual out of this box. There's no manual.
There's a manual for the
gee.
chassis
Oh, for the chassis.
that tells you how to install the fan.
Dual frame construction, reinforced fan blades, high pressure CFM design, focused airflow. Kyle's destroying things over there. Silent operation and on the fly switching. Yeah, I mean it seems like a pretty large and flexible fan.
Yeah, the main reason
these
why I
mounting
gave it to
points.
Paul, because outside of it looking really cool, is that with a small form factor enclosure, it's really important to try to be able to bring in air into the system to be able to pass over a lot of the components. So I felt that this was going to be important in terms of putting that in.
So
It goes on the inside.
yeah, but I'm just trying to. I
It
had
goes on
been.
the inside. You're so funny, JJ.
Thanks,
I know,
thanks, JJ.
I know.
I had been.
I kid.
I have been trying to kind of finagle it in there, but it didn't seem to be lining up with the mounting points.
Kid.
So let me just see if I can figure that out. This is confusing.
Oh man. You should ask the users out there, who feels like really good, like when you put in like some memory into your like motherboard and you hear it click on both sides.
I like that
Like
click.
you got like this sense of gratification of like something, you know, inherently important in the world has occurred. You know, you feel like if like you had an internal 1-up meter it just like you would have gotten extra life. You know, that's like how I feel. It's like I'm Super Mario and I hit the box and it's like doo-doo-doo. You know, it's like, and then when you get to see them all in there, all evenly distributed, and you get to know that, you know, all your memories in there, you feel really good. Okay, I guess this
JJ,
this is just me.
Let's change subjects now. And could you talk about your water cooling system, please?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm a really big fan of the Coolants Exos hardware. I think that the simplicity, but the performance that's offered within it, as well as the customization, is really outstanding. So the main reason why I picked it is if you guys like checked out the Newegg overclocking video that we did, we talked a lot about the thermal concerns that you may have as you start to aggressively overvolt your CPU, being able to pursue higher frequencies. So wanting to go with this system, I wanted to be able to have a really great degree of overclockability because I've got a really great CPU. I can actually do 5 gigahertz on the CPU under Haswell. So this is a pretty rare CPU, but it requires a little bit more voltage. And when driving your CPU VRM assembly, which is this guy right here, this part right here, normally this area, you don't have to worry about the temperatures too much, but when you're heavily loading it and you're driving more current directly to the CPU under load, you can affect the efficiency as well as the stability when you hit this really hard with different types of applications or different types of games and whatnot. And so I just wanted to be able to use water cooling to make sure that everything was as cool as possible and also offer me a really cool and quiet experience, because not to always say that an air-cooled solution is going to be louder than water cooling, because of course water cooling you still have fans inside of the radiator and that needs to be customized, but generally you can maintain a very high performance system and have it be fairly quiet when you go with a water cooling route. So that's the main reason why I picked a water cooling setup, and I'm a big fan of Coolants' hardware because it's easy, it's high performance, it's machined well, so it complements the kind of the build that I was looking for.
So follow-up question, what batch number is your 5 gigahertz CPU?
You shall never know.
And also, what...
In the words of Golem, it's mine. It's my precious.
Do we know which ones the viewers chose yet?
Oh, I don't know. Did you give him a little bit of
No one ever responded to us.
I haven't received a response yet. They say red.
They say red?
Red?
Oh
That's
man, I
choice.
already put
like
the black
red.
ones on there. All right. The people have spoken.
The people
Merely a
have
setback.
spoken.
I
Okay.
respect the people's vote, so I will use red.
Can the loop for the coolants be expanded to include the graphics card?
Oh,
yes.
most definitively. The pump and the reservoir, everything that's in there is more than high enough that if we wanted to go ahead and, like EK just came out with these awesome high performance blocks for this GTX 780 DirectC2 card. It's entirely a custom block which supports our non-reference PCB. I haven't received it in yet, but I was hoping to receive it in so I could use it in the live build, but we didn't get it in time. But yes, you could entirely cool the memory, you could cool the CPU, you could cool the motherboard, you could cool your GPU. So you got more than enough cooling performance to be able to throw multiple items in there.
Hey JJ, have you used this fan with this case before?
Not that, no, not that fan.
The thing looks like it's going to take off when you power it.
It's actually very
If you
quiet.
put wings on it,
Yeah,
it'll
the fan
fly away.
would be very large. I love large
Giant
fans because
fan
they're
and a
they
little
move a
computer.
lot of air and they don't need to spin at very high RPMs. But
Yeah.
this fan has this kind of bracket
So I
around the
assume you still
outside.
haven't looked at the manual?
Well, no.
There wasn't one.
There wasn't. There wasn't one for the fan. There's one.
There's
for the
one
case.
for the board.
For the board.
I mean, for the chassis.
Okay. Speaking of fan control customization, I've heard you say in the past that all fan headers on Z87 boards are PWM. Are they all really PWM or software controlled voltage?
So you have the ability to both control both DC-based fans and PWM-based fans. As far as the PWM signal in itself, that's difficult to modulate and verify. But in terms of the control parameter that's offered, we can customize the voltage increments that are being supplied, but we can also reference the data that's being set through the data lead. So in that respect, it's kind of like a combination of both, and there's some more complex elements to how the Super I/O controller interfaces with that. But as far as every one of those headers, they are fully adjustable for both 3-pin based fans, so DC-based fans, as well as 4-pin PWM-based fans.
Okie dokie.
Like if somebody didn't know what we were talking about, you just like tune in the channel, and you'd just be like, you watching this is like, what is he talking about? What dark arts? What language is that?
Oh, you know, I totally forgot to do. Hey, everyone! If you're just now joining us, Kyle tried to get me to do this like 10 minutes ago. If you're just now joining us, guys, we're here with JJ from Asus. We're doing a couple live builds, although we're not really focusing as much on the builds. We're taking questions. So if you guys want to ask a question, jump into our Twitch.
Well, I don't know about me. I'm over here. I'm focusing on my build. You never decide not to.
JJ, you're doing a fabulous job of multitasking.
Completely.
Paul,
I've been.
what's going on?
This fan doesn't want to go into the.
Do you need me to take things out of boxes for you?
No, it's. Here's the thing. It's got catches on here that are for this front panel, right? The front panel, which needs to be able to go on like this and snap into place. However, this fan, which is substantially wider than a typical fan, seems to be conflicting with those little brackets and possibly preventing me from putting that front panel on after it's installed.
Can you mod the front panel? You take the brackets that are interfering off the front panel and snap.
I could bend those up, but then that front panel wouldn't go back on anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Back to questions.
First world problems.
How many volts can I run a 4670K at with a CM Hyper 412S? That's very specific.
It is.
I would say you're going to generally be in a comfortable zone. Now this depends on whether or not you're going to do an adaptive voltage or a manual voltage, because of course, as we talked about in our overclocking guide, with an adaptive voltage, the voltage will change under stress test applications. But assuming you're only going to measure your voltage under real world usage, so games, web browsing, you know, general productivity applications, things along those lines, I'd say you'd be able to comfortably dissipate up to about 1.225, possibly even about 1.25 volts. That might require the fan curve to be set a little bit more aggressively, as far as keeping it maybe a little bit on the louder side, but that fan is still pretty solid, so even at a higher fan speed, it's not going to be too audible. But I'd say I would not go more than 1.25 for sure.
Will Asus...
Sorry.
Will Asus ever come out with newer motherboards for AMD?
You know, we just released a brand new set of A88 series motherboards for the FM2 based platform, so those literally just came out actually like this month, so I think that's pretty new. If you're referring to like the high-end desktop side, I don't know that there's any reason to right now, because there's still only a current 900 series chipset, and we did release a refresh for that for like our Sabertooth 990FX R2.0. We did a Crosshair 5 Formula Z, and we did multiple R2.0s for the M5A series. So we've got a really rich set of AMD boards right now.
Flat sides vertical. I have the flat sides vertical. Oh, yeah. Hey, that's, you know what? That's easier. Okay, so flat sides vertical like that, which was gonna be my next thing. I was just pulling that cage out so I could get at it. There's probably like at least
from our viewer.
There's at least a few people who have built in the Prodigy before who probably cringing at everything I'm doing, but you know. Ah, you're right. That's much better. Thank you, viewer X, for
ZAW626.
ZAW626.
Get a cookie.
Right.
Oh man, you know, like I'm not the biggest cookie fan, but you know, I could go for like a really nice, like warm, like cinnamon cookie with like some strudel, maybe some nice like vanilla bean ice cream.
Dude,
oh, that would be pretty good right
why
now.
are you making me hungry?
God, Jesus. Okay.
Is that a...
Oh man, I love a good screwdriver.
Incoming snacks.
Incoming snack. Healthy day.
You get healthy seaweed crackers.
Yay,
healthy seaweed crackers. I don't know that it meets
That's not quite
my vanilla bean, you know, sweet cinnamon cookie fix, but yeah, that is appreciated.
All right, is an NVIDIA Titan overkill for 1440p gaming with a 3570K as my processor?
Ooh, I'd say yes and no. It really depends. If you're somebody that absolutely wants to drive the highest level of image quality settings, then I would say no. I mean, ideally, that CPU, without having some bit of an overclock on it, might not necessarily be able to fully keep up with the GPU.
Yes.
But you could still state that the gaming experience that you would have on that would still be outstanding, and you would be able to have higher image quality settings. For most gamers that are generally running 1440p, the bigger question to ask yourself is, what games are you playing? If like you're playing you know, Battlefield 3, you know, versus playing, you know, Grid 2 versus playing, you know, Resident Evil, each one of those games has a different type of load balance and may require a different type of GPU. So what you want to do is figure out what are the most demanding games that you play, and then kind of figure out, do you want to be that person that just enables every single image quality setting at its maximum? If you tend to say yes more than no, and you play a very wide assortment of games, including those real big AAA titles, then you're going to want to look at something like, you know, a 780 or a Titan class product. But if not, then you could definitely consider going with something like, you know, a 760 or a 770 and still have a really great gaming experience. And not a lot of guys are jumping on it right off the bat, but I'll tell you, the GeForce Experience software, if you don't know a lot about tweaking your graphics card settings, will allow you to pretty much always consistently with your GPU be able to get a really good gaming experience while having a good balance of image quality settings. So if you haven't downloaded and you have an NVIDIA card, I would definitely recommend it.
Okie dokie. How large of a GPU can the Bit Phoenix Prodigy hold?
According to the side of the box, 240 millimeters. Is that right? Motherboard sizes. Wait, no, it said it right over here. Supports long graphics cards and up to 240 millimeters. Oh, long. According to this, it's long graphics cards. Oh gosh. You know, it's not saying in here. It might say on our on the product page more specifically.
I think I've put in there. I don't remember if I put a 7990, but
if
I put in a Titan, man. So you know, yeah. Titan's pretty long, and so is our 780 card. So
if you remove this upper drive cage, you can fit a pretty long.
Yeah, I don't feel that there's going to be any card that you wouldn't be able to fit lengthwise in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any way to stop speaker popping that is being caused from an overclock without taking the overclock down?
Speaker popping coming from an overclock?
That's
you know, that depends. If you're using a onboard audio, yeah, you could be having an issue there. So sometimes switching to a discrete card would eliminate that issue. If you didn't want to pop for a discrete card, you could try to buy a ferrite coil and put it on your actual line cable for your audio, and it may help to mitigate it to a degree, but it depends on what's actually happening on the motherboard. Usually if you're getting that type of popping, means that the isolation, or what are referred to as the soothing caps on the motherboard, are not maybe able to compensate enough, and so you're going to get a little bit more of that going on.
Okay, will Asus come out with a ROG motherboard for Haswell E?
I can't talk about products that may or may not exist.
Okay.
I'll guess yes.
Fair enough.
But I'm not speaking on behalf of JJ.
Two personal questions for you, JJ.
Very personal. People want to get to know me, huh?
I guess so.
What did you study in college?
I did not go to college, so there's no studying there. Pretty much after high school, I spent a lot of time working.
Can't hear
I have two more screws to do the wrist
he just doesn't want to use, you know, really nice, real good quality screwdriver. He's got to use an electric.
I'm cheating.
Anyways, but yeah, I didn't actually go to college. I pretty much was working in high school, and after that,
last one, he promises.
One more.
I ended up going straight from that to actually working for a small consultation company, where I ended up actually working with them extensively. So we helped to open up more shops doing private consultation, system integration, and things like that. And I worked on getting certifications for networking and for Microsoft certs and things like that.
Okay.
Stay in school, kids.
Where was the other one? Oh, can you ballpark how many systems you have built?
Oh, wow. I would say literally at this point, tens of thousands. I can tell you that
tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands. And our busiest year, 1 year alone in our system consultation firm company, we produced in 1 year over, I think, 17,000 systems. So that was in 1 year.
Look, Kyle. Look so, what I'm doing, Kyle.
A lot.
What's that?
Hey, hey, I want that.
It's the ROG Impact, Kyle.
Give me that.
Ooh. I'm gonna install. I'm gonna install a CPU and the ROG Impact.
I had a good one. Oh, here it is. With the i5 4430 bottleneck in Asus 760.
That's actually a pretty solid, you said 4430, right?
4430.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're going for a little bit more of a budget build, but that's a really strong part. Overall, the performance is going to be pretty solid. I will note, like in some titles like Skyrim actually has a really, really great load balancing engine for more cores and more cache. So if you give it a beefier processor, it definitely does better. But overall, I'd say that's a pretty well-matched CPU for actually the majority of different CPUs out there. Excuse me, the majority of GPUs. So if you're on a budget, that's probably one of the best budget CPUs to buy, short of even a cheaper part like a 3300 or something like that.
Okay, how is Supreme FX on ROG board compared to a standalone sound card, for example, Asus Zonar Phoebus?
Well, the Zonar Phoebus is a pretty high-end card.
Yeah.
So the Phoebus is pretty much going to be on the same grade as almost like the Supreme FX-based audio design that's on the Maximus 6 formula board. I would say that most of our Supreme FX-based audio designs are going to be fairly comparable to like a Zonar DG or DGX, which is a pretty solid, nice, discrete quality sound card. But in terms of probably only the Maximus 6 formula board is going to be able to offer competitiveness to something up to about, like I'd say, a Zonar DX. Anything above a Zonar DX is going to be superior to that than what we're going to offer in terms of the Supreme FX audio design.
What do you guys think of the Fractal Design Archmidi R2? Could I do a custom water cooling loop in it?
I think it's a good solid case. I have not built in it, but I did do an overview on it. I like the design elements. I'm a fan of fractal cases. I just like that minimalist Scandinavian aesthetic.
Yeah, they got really nice lines to them.
Yeah, so, and they want to know if they can do water cooling in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on which type of water cooling, right?
Yeah, I mean, because water cooling is, in general, I mean, if you're talking...
I mean, you know, I guess,
yeah,
yeah, it just depends. Like, is it internal or external? I'd say you could figure out a way, one way or another, to accomplish water cooling in there. You might have to maybe get a little bit more crafty as far as which parts you end up using, but it's possible.
Do you have to overclock your CPU in order to use overclock memory?
No. Well, how do you define that? Because you're overclocking like the IMC, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's I guess it's a tricky answer, but technically no. You could run your CPU at stock and go ahead and enable your XMP profile. But you know, if you're buying a K part or an X part and you're not overclocking it, then you should have not bought a K part or an X part.
Yes.
Here's a question from Keyboard Ninja.
Keyboard Ninja, man, your name rocks.
Dude, Keyboard Ninja is awesome.
2 points for you.
Any advice for a 7950 that rattles under load? If I manually control the fans and raise to 50%, the rattling stops.
So it's the fan spinning is causing the rattling. It's not like a coil whine.
I don't have like. It just doesn't work that way, Paul.
He's not omniscient, man.
Jake, answer me. No? Okay.
I would probably say, if depending on how easy the card is to disassemble, you might want to go ahead and disassemble the fan housing and put it back together. Sometimes over time the cards can vibrate and the screws that make up the actual fan shroud can become a little bit loose. And so it just might be that one of those screws is a little bit loose, and so you might just need to tighten it up.
Do they plan on making blue theme Z87 motherboards?
If that's in reference to Asus, as of now we have no plans to deviate from our new color scheme, which is gold, with the exception, of course, Sabertooth series boards, which carry their classic kind of dark brown kind of color scheme, and ROG, which are, of course, red and black with white accenting. So no, as of right now, blue is no longer a color that you'll be seeing from Asus's board division.
Gold is the new blue.
Keyboard Ninja says no, it's not coil whine.
Yeah, then what JJ said.
There you go. JJ already troubleshot that for you. Okay, what is your opinion on GPU caddies that utilize Thunderbolt? Have they got a realistic place in the PC market?
I would say as of right now, no, just because while Thunderbolt offers very impressive throughput, it's still not sufficient, I feel, to offer a real impactful benefit to users. I think as the Thunderbolt protocol continues to improve, such as like the 2nd generation Thunderbolt that is right now coming out, we're actually getting ready to launch the first Thunderbolt 2 certified board with our deluxe quad. With more bandwidth, of course, comes a better experience, and I think that we're on the way to start enabling this type of experience. But one thing you have to keep in mind with external caddies, it's very difficult to make them work for GPUs due to the fact that GPUs have varying levels of power requirements, thermal conditions, and a number of different factors. So until we can kind of try to figure out something that makes sense, or end up having like a housing that would be like literally the size of this power supply box, so that you could adequately make sure that everything is cooled and powered right, I don't know that we're going to find that kind of holy grail that people want with an easy upgradable solution.
Lots of potential for the future, though, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the protocol and the bus, as its native PCI Express, supports a lot of flexibility, and it's only going to keep getting better. So, I would say, it's definitely it's a possibility. Just depends on how things play out.
Okay, JJ, have you used the BitPower's new water block for the P8Z77i Deluxe? Do you know if there is a water block, or if there's a block for the impact?
We are working with EK. I didn't know that BitPower had one, so I can't comment on that one, but I'm sure our team has worked with them in terms of doing validation. As to whether there are ones for the impact, I would assume most likely there will be, just because the VRM design for the impact and the Dash I are very similar. So they may even be interoperable, but I can't comment on that. What I would just recommend is that you check out the vendor's site and follow that out. But definitely, I would probably say in the coming weeks, you could probably check out our Asus RG YouTube channel or check out our social media channels. I'm trying to get one right now from those partners so I can test it and put some information out there, but I'm sure they'll do that as well. But it looks like a pretty awesome solution. So
the EK block JJ was describing to me early, and it's going to be a unified block that covers your CPU and also angles up and covers the daughter board here for the VRM and the power delivery as well. So that sounds pretty sweet. Really looking forward to seeing the different types of custom builds with the impact board here. Also, I'm peeling this piece of plastic off of the Asus logo.
You just had to do it, didn't you?
I did.
All right, all right.
JJ, can you talk about the laptop that I'm using?
It's a G-Series notebook. Paul probably knows better than me because that's his personal unit.
That's my laptop.
I'm a big fan of the G-Series notebooks. Like the newest model, I don't know which that one is, but
it's a G73.
G73, so that's pretty nice. I mean, it's still got the dual independent chambers for the cooling technology, which I think is a big plus because all the heat gets moved away from the keyboard area.
Yeah.
So it helps, like when you're gaming, you don't have that hot palm syndrome.
Exactly.
Which is the thing that I think, really you don't like about a gaming keyboard.
We've taken this on the road and used it for video editing before, and even though it's this is not even Sandy Bridge. This is crap. I always forget the code name. What's the 1156 code name?
Linfield.
Linfield. This is I think there's a Linfield chip in here, and yeah, the cooling design on it and the fact that it pushes all the heat out the back. If you've ever used a laptop and started to actually use it for something like gaming or video editing and had your hand right next to the exhaust, and you just heat coming out on your hand, pushing it straight out the back, does great. And this thing, even with some fairly heavy-duty video editing, we were using it CES a year and a half ago, and does a really good job.
One of the other really nice aspects too of that notebook is that because the GPU and the CPU fans are independent of each other, that means you can load both of them up and you get much better distribution and balancing. Nice. Whereas a lot of notebooks, they use one centralized heatsink and fan to cool both the GPU and the CPU. So you get a benefit of better thermal efficiency and dissipation while also it being exhausted outside of your chassis.
Yeah, and again, this is probably 3 years old now.
Yeah, the newer model's got tons of new improvements. Like we went to, it's got a full unibody keyboard design. It's got an integrated operational amplifier for the headphone output.
Nice.
A lot of really cool design touches on it.
Also, they also said that I'm awesome.
You are. You're doing an awesome job.
Awesome.
And also that Paul and Kyle are awesome.
Yay.
And everyone's doing a great job.
I think everybody's awesome.
Okay, on that note, another reminder, just in case anybody has just now joined us and wondering what the heck is going on, we're here with JJ from Asus. He's Asus's technical marketing representative. So he's here to answer any questions you might have about Asus products or about JJ personally or about anything like that, you know, within reason, of course. You know, you can ask me questions too, or anybody around here. Just jump in the chat, ask a question. Jenny's getting those, and at the same time, we're also building 2 systems, primarily built around the new Asus, the Maximus 6 Impact Mini ITX board that I have right here, as well as a Maximus 6
ROG all the way,
Formula board that JJ's working with over there, and JJ is kicking my butt right now. I can see now. I see JJ's plans. He's like, I'll take the harder system with the water cooling, and you take the easy system with the air cooling and the air cooler that you've never used before. And the Bit Phoenix Prodigy.
JJ, would you?
He's also built like 10,000 systems. Oh. I was about to be like, you know, I've maybe built like a couple hundred.
JJ, probably. Are you going to be at PAX Prime?
You know, sadly, I'm not.
Now?
Yeah, that's happening right now, and he's definitely
well, you know, I'm still working on that.
Right
I can't give you guys, you know, confidential information on next generation ROG technologies where we're going to have the ability to have holographic projections.
Be JJ in 2 places.
Yeah. But no, I won't be. Sorry about that, guys. I try to go to as many events as I can, but right now we're in a really busy time with a lot of launches, so I will not be going.
All right, question for Paul. Should I get a USB wireless adapter or a PCI wireless adapter? I don't have Ethernet.
Don't have Ethernet and you need a wireless adapter.
So what do you got, like an Ultrabook?
You know what, I just read the questions.
If they have like an Ultrabook, I think.
Yeah, if it's an Ultrabook or something like that, then USB for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how they would go.
They must have a desktop if they're asking about PCI. The Asus PCI 802.11ac.
Yeah, if they want to go really high performance, but we have all kinds of solutions. Yeah. I mean, for the money, the USB N53, I think is like less than $25, and that's a dual band, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. It's a very, very good performance-based wireless solution. If you want even better performance, you could go, of course, with some of the newer ones where we have 802.11ac. But keep in mind, to get the best benefit from AC, you're going to need an AC-enabled router as well.
All right, JJ. This person says, I just built a brand new computer with a 4770K on a Maximus VI Gene.
You rock! Where are you at? Where you rock? You rock! I love the guys that rock the Gene, man. You guys don't get enough love, man.
Hang on, that wasn't the end of it.
Okay, I had to express my enthusiasm for somebody that has loved the Gene.
With a DCU2 770, would it be worth putting an additional 770 on it at this point, or wait for a bit?
Yeah, I think most likely. I mean, I always try to tell people that, you know, try to go with the single fastest GPU you can before you go with SLI or Crossfire-based situations, and only consider the card if you need it to get to the performance level that you're looking for. So, you know, my recommendation would probably be that no, I don't think you probably need to. The 770, especially with the overclocking capability of that card, is quite solid. So, I think in most situations you probably won't really need to upgrade that. You're going to have really strong performance.
I think we might have a compatibility issue here.
In terms of what?
This heatsink is conflicting with the daughter board here.
Oh, in terms of the clearance.
I could rotate it 90 degrees, but then it would conflict with the memory. So I can use this cooler and go with some lower profile memory. Or I could grab a different cooling unit that we might have on hand.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, let's just, you know, well, we're just, you know, going with something basic. I mean, it's a shame, but you could just throw like a, you know, retail cooler on there, I guess, for the interim if you want to catch up with me as I'm kind of beating you.
JJ's
like done.
But entirely up to you, boss.
All right. 660 Ti SLI. Should I get a 100?
What was that? You misspelled Mary.
Do we have to have a prenup?
I think that should be required.
Who's Mary, Kyle? Just saying. Anyway. 660 Ti SLI. Should I get a 144 hertz 1200p or a triple monitor setup?
Well, that's hard. I mean, you're lucky if you've got enough space to run a triple monitor setup, but the resolution that you'd be driving at across 3 panels would definitely outpower you know, that type of GPU configuration, unless you were really willing to bring down some of the image quality settings. I think, did they say that they were looking at a 1440p, like a 2560, as opposed to 3 panels?
No, he was asking about 140, the higher
144
refresh rate.
hertz.
Like
Yeah. I don't, you know, it really depends. You know, I'm not one of those guys that's super sensitive to input lag. So I generally prefer, you know, pixel density, sharpness, color accuracy. So I like higher resolution with the best image fidelity as possible on my monitor. But, you know, I've been really happy with actually trying out our VG monitors that have the 120 and 144. It is a noticeable differential in terms of having so much faster response from the panel, because when you start to just move your mouse and you track back and forth, you start clicking on windows, you just get this really clean response from the system. And that is kind of addictive, because like I've got, right now in the office I have 6 test beds, and 2 of them have high refresh rate monitors, and I notice it all the time when I go back and forth between that. But unless you have multiple monitors at home, you probably won't notice that difference. So you probably won't realize, excuse me, you probably won't realize that you could have it feel snappier, I guess, or more responsive. So I think that comes down to a personal choice. If you're really somebody that is a FPS-centric gamer, you play those type of games heavily, then I'd probably say, you know, definitely try out at least a high refresh rate monitor. If not, I think that, you know, you'd probably be better suited by considering a higher resolution monitor, having more screen space with better color accuracy.
Yeah, I used to go for higher resolution just by default all the time. I was always, my consideration was if you're at 60 hertz and you can get a 60 frames per second, it's pretty smooth. But having done a couple demos and seen the side-by-side of 120 or 144 hertz,
the response is nice. It is kind of addictive when you have it run fast. I mean, ideally, what you'd love to have is 120 hertz and high resolution with great color accuracy.
Why can't they make those IPS panels be 120 hertz?
You know, it's technology restrictions.
Technology.
JJ, could you talk about your power supply a little bit?
Yeah, so I've got Corsair. This is their older model. This is the AX850. They've got a newer model, which is the AX Platinum range, which replaced these, which were the their previous gold range. But the thing I really loved is, one, they have a fully modular based design, so they allow for really clean, easy, effective cable routing. 2, they've got a really well-designed fan curve, so they have a very high-quality based fan. It's got a very smooth tone to it. It's also very efficient, so generally underneath like 30, I think about 30% load, this fan won't even turn on, so the power supply is going to be 100% inaudible.
And
then only when the system gets under heavier load will it actually come on. And even when it does come on, it's, I'd say, entirely whisper quiet. You generally don't even notice it. So the efficiency is outstanding, which is really nice because, of course, if you're going to be running an overclock system, I want to be able to maximize the power output. And you know, they're a quality vendor, which not a lot of people always keep that in mind, but I think it's important when you do buy a component that you feel confident that if something does go wrong, I know that I can contact them and, you know, that they'll be able to work with me in getting my replacement or my RMA going on or whatever it might be. So I personally upgraded one of my systems at home to the new AX760i, which has their new dual setting technology where you can run it like in hybrid or silent mode. Definitely can't go wrong with, I think, any of the AX series PSUs. They're really great.
Okay. How do you go?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
How do you go about effectively cleaning your fans in your system?
Good question.
Yeah, that's you know, I think there's a lot of different ways to go about that. I like to buy like a really nice, soft bristle and flexible paintbrush. Like go to like Lowe's or like Home Depot or something.
What are you doing with that, Paul?
You can tell I'm getting desperate here. Just to try to catch up with JJ, I'm using a stock Intel heatsink fan. I'm sorry, everyone.
But can't do better than that.
I like those because I feel that I can really easily just clean a system out, just brush it, get all that stuff out. And then I like, because I try to be environmentally conscious, I don't like to buy canned and compressed air. So I get like a refillable pumped-based air system so that I can just manually pump it and then I spray my system out. So I recommend that you always crack open your chassis generally at least every month and a half to just be proactive and just cleaning it out so that you don't get a lot of dust, debris, dander. Because what a lot of people don't realize is, like, if I was to like use this fan as a reference, I guess, like your fan, when dust comes in, it can settle inside of the hub assembly. And it sits inside there, and when it sits inside there, that can eventually stop the fan blade from being able to move and rotate. And so that's impossible for generally you to service. Only very few fans on the market have the ability to actually remove the fan blade and clean the inside of the fan assembly.
Enermax fans do that.
Yeah, Enermax is one of the few companies that do have that. So if you can be a little bit more proactive about cleaning them, that's a really good route to go with.
I'm glad that you mentioned not purchasing compressed air, because canned air is horrible for the environment.
Yeah, you know, I'd say you gotta keep those things in mind. You know, try to be as conscientious as you can about certain things. I mean, we're all enthusiasts, but you know, like they say, we've only got one planet, right?
I'll use like with case fans if I'm doing a really deep system cleaning, because they can get the dust kind of caked up onto the blades. So I'll use just a Q-tip and a little bit of rubbing alcohol, just to give it a little bit of solvency to kind of clear that dust away. And just kind of wipe it across each fan blade and do a second run on them if I'm trying to be really thorough.
All right, I have another question from somebody from earlier that I guess I didn't get to.
Go.
Should I get a GTX 760 with a 144 hertz monitor? I play mostly BF3 and similar games, but I also do a lot of desktop usage. Is the premium price worth the experience?
That's a tough call, because I think everybody's experience, everybody's personal.
144 hertz.
Yeah, everybody's kind of like personal preference will vary. So some people might feel that smooth and that responsiveness is going to be really needed. Now I will say, if you play tons of BF3, you're probably more sensitive to things like input lag and the response of the things that you're seeing on screen. I would say in that type of situation, going to that is important. Now, the one thing that you have to keep in mind is, I think they said they have a GTX 760, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So to drive the monitor at a high enough consistent refresh rate, right, means that you need to keep the image quality settings and the resolution at a playable level. Because you have to remember that if you keep vertical sync enabled, every time your frame rate drops below the master frame rate, so if that's 144, it cuts in half, it cuts in half, it cuts in half. So if 760 is a powerful card, but
you do have adaptive VSync though. With
you do have it with NVIDIA-based cards, so that is kind of an experience, but you're still dropping in and out between the two.
Yeah.
Ideally, you'd like to keep the card more consistent, especially for first-person shooters. If the whole point is to minimize input lag, then the switch between the adaptive and the non-adaptive modes still is creating a little bit of that same latency. So you'd have to either consider going up to a higher end GPU to make sure that everything stays super fluid, or bring down your image quality settings enough so that your frame rate would always stay super high. But I will definitely say that if you play a lot of first-person games, I think that the experience at playing 120 hertz or 144 hertz is noticeable, and it's worth it to a lot of those gamers.
I think if you're on a budget, optimize for 1080 for now, because I feel like if you're working towards that 1080 and 60 hertz, you can work more towards getting your gameplay to where you want.
World records, guys! I hit 7 gigahertz on water.
Are we back? Like for realsies?
Not yet.
Okay.
Just keep talking.
Let me know when we're back. I want to say something like, and that's how you can get a 6 gigahertz overclock on a 4770K with a Hyper 212 Plus.
It wouldn't be Newegg TV if things didn't go wrong. So what was that you were saying, Paul?
Oh yeah, so I mean I topped out at about 7 gigahertz, but you know there's only so much that the Hyper 212 Plus can do, so you know. Sorry, what?
Should I overclock my RAM? It's already running at 1600 megahertz.
No.
He says no.
If your kit is rated to 1600 megahertz, then you can play around with it a little bit. But effectively, for most stuff you're going to do with a computer, at least from my experience and what I've read so far, the most effective means or use case right now for a home PC for overclocked RAM is if you're using something like an AMD APU and you're using integrated graphics, because that will give you a pretty significant boost in your graphics performance. But
I would disagree, Paul.
JJ. Wait, hold on. Sorry about that, guys. We had our internet turned off for some reason or another, but we're back, so...
Yeah, blame it on Paul. It was his fault.
Live stream. I was like, hey, turn off the internet.
But no, Paul makes a pretty good point. In most situations, you're not going to get a huge impact. But depending on your work usage, DRAM really affects a lot of bandwidth-based items. And if you're doing a lot of decompression and compression, so if you do a lot of photography work, you're doing a lot of heavy batch conversion, compressing down files, extracting files like that, you can actually have fairly sizable increases by going from like 1600 megahertz to like 1866 or 2133, even 2400 memory. I'll give you an example. Like if I take, you know, one of my higher resolution DSLRs, and I take like a 32 gig memory card, and I've captured a whole bunch of photos and stuff like that, and I compress them down to lower resolution or like a compressed format, going between, let's say, like 1600 to 2400 memory, I could maybe drop down the time alone in the compression by maybe 25%.
Oh,
so it's a fairly noticeable impact in performance. But you really have to find out kind of how your application uses memory and bandwidth. And so that's one of those things that takes a little bit more time for you to figure out. You might have to look at, you know, forums or feedback from the company as far as how they've set up the program. Does it cache through memory? You know, what it may or may not do. The other point that Paul made is that if the memory is rated for only 1600 megahertz operation, sometimes you'll have ICs, or the chips that are on the memory, that have a lot more margin and leeway into them. And other times that 1600 megahertz memory, because it's a little bit more conservative at those price points, it's very tight, meaning that there's not a lot of room for really you to bump up the performance. Or if you have to relax the timings to increase the performance, you negate the increase in the frequency. So if you bought 1600 C9 memory, and you could run it at 1866, but you had to run it at C12, you probably wouldn't get any benefit because the 1600 at C9 would be faster. So a couple things to consider.
I'm having a technical difficulty. Google Drive just took a poo.
Really? Oh,
I didn't know that was possible. Is that the technical term?
So
no, but I can't use the technical term here, JJ. They get mad at me.
Are they encroaching on you? Are they encroaching on your rights?
It says no, there's no connection, but it's connected. I don't know what happened.
On your freedom of speech.
Folks, we'll get back to your questions in just a moment.
Just dropped my
We love all of you.
screwdriver.
Know that we care, please.
We do care. Oh, what's wrong?
There we go. All right. Well, I have a. We're still. Oh, did it come back?
Can Steve come help me?
Come on, Steve.
Come on, Steve.
Hey, Mr. Kyle, let's give viewers a little bit of a shot of my in the process build here. You can take a look at that awesome just ROG sexiness that's going on there, man.
It is. It is.
Yeah, that is awesome sauce. I think that's looking pretty
Paul,
good.
You're gonna have to re-sign in.
Oh yes. Just try to go to Google. Is Google? Can you go to Google?
No. Hi,
You
Steve.
can go to Google.
How are you?
Someone's lying to me here about something.
Lying to you about something?
It says that it's not connected, but it's yes, it is. It's in his.
How you doing there,
the
Paul?
link is in his email.
Are you doing all right, sir?
It's coming along here.
You coming along? Are you getting there?
Go back?
I need a short screwdriver.
Okay, so
Or maybe a screwdriver that can angle itself. No.
No?
It's,
Did you forget to screw it while it was on the outside?
but the motherboard mounts are inside the case. I can't remove that.
I'm just messing with you.
This case doesn't have a removable drive cage. Although I heard, hey, there's a case I read about recently that has a removable removable motherboard tray. That's what I meant to say, by the way, was motherboard tray.
can't you just log me into the Twitch so I can just see the questions?
Yeah, but they come at you pretty quick and
Yeah.
they erase. You would have to ask questions every like 10 seconds to get through it.
Oh, okay. Well, something's better than nothing.
Weird that it's doing that.
So how you doing, Kyle? You doing all right, boss?
I'm fine. Fantastic. It
Kyle's
You're doing
in
fantastic.
there.
It's good to see you, man. It's been a little while since I've seen you.
has, man. I'm kind of missing you. I was missing you for a while. I was having JJ withdrawals.
Yeah, you know, I was having some awesome sauce withdrawals. You know,
It hasn't rained in a while. I was like, JJ needs to be here and make it rain.
make it rain, man. You know, I try. You know, I've been busy. You know, these crazy chipset launches and all.
All right. So JJ, I did have a question for you for the interim until we get our Q&A module back up.
Sorry.
But no, that's no problem.
It's not my fault.
Pardon me. Okay. So JJ works with Asus, and Asus has been at the forefront of motherboard design, and as well as other technological things, not to put too fine a point on it,
Thank you,
for quite some
Steve.
time.
Okay, questions.
Well, wait, I have a question. My question is, I need to phrase it. So JJ, there have been quite a few innovations that Asus has come out with over the years. I'd say particularly over the past, say, 8+ years. And a lot of times these innovations might end up surfacing other places, say other competing motherboards later on down the line. So I was wondering if you could, off the top of your head, list off as many things as possible, specific to motherboards, innovations that Asus has come out with. I would say probably mostly in the ROG series, because that's where you guys do a lot of the kind of the cutting edge stuff. Innovations that Asus has come out with that you've seen, say, borrowed at some point further along the line in the future. I'll start off with the crap. I know I'm not going to say the right name for it, but the PCB separation for the audio.
Oh, our Supreme Effects audio design, the red line audio design.
The red line audio design, the separation on the PCB for the audio componentry from the rest of the motherboard to enhance the audio experience. That is something that I saw originally on an Asus motherboard, and I've seen it since then on other motherboards. Would there be any other technology like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of them. I mean, one of the things, like you said, that we do pride ourselves on is really taking design innovation seriously, because, you know, we feel that if somebody's going to pay more for a product, it should be substantiated within the feature set that they're getting on those products. So, you know, that could be everything from, you know, digital power design solutions, where we've had competitors that spend whole motherboard generations saying, hey, how great their analog-based power designs are, and they're supposedly better than our digital designs, which have offered better efficiency or better performance. And then the next generation, they come around and they've got a digital power design. Interesting enough, you know. But it can also vary to be, you know, other items like, you know, per header fan control, offering customized fan curve options. You've got even things like, if we go back to like the original like ROG Commando board, where we had a board that had full, what were referred to as capless based designs, which was using POS caps in the CPU socket, where
Paul,
we don't use that historically right now.
And Paul, you might want to take the top cover off the case in order to get easier access to the motherboard screws.
Oh, they're already screwed in, sorry, but
There.
good advice for the future, thank you.
Okay.
Pearls of wisdom from our wonderful viewers.
All right, JJ. I am building for someone who just uses the internet heavily and office programs, and they want it to be really fast for a long time. So would a Pentium G2020 P8B 75M-LX, Corsair XM S3, and a Samsung 840 series 120 gig be fast enough?
I think that, you know, that would get you a large way amount there. I mean, an SSD in itself is going to really give you a huge amount of that response and that snappiness that you're looking from a system. The processor is not going to be too much of a bottleneck, but depending on how much they do on the web, you know, if there's somebody that likes to, you know, go to YouTube and click on 1080p video, or they watch Netflix, which uses variable compression for when it's streaming out to you, the processor has to be involved in that. But if you can get a fairly decent GPU to accelerate some of that, that can help to offset some of those experience aspects. The integrated graphics processor inside of the Intel chipset, that's one kind of disadvantage, because when you're buying a budget chip, you're not getting those later generation graphics technologies that Intel have put into their higher end chips. You're getting the older HD grade graphics as opposed to their latest generation graphics architecture. But overall, it should be a fairly peppy and responsive system as long as you keep it light and responsive. But if the system has a little bit of room, I would probably recommend at least getting a very basic base GPU. It doesn't have to be expensive. It could be something like, you know, a GT640, or it could be like an HD 7750, something not very expensive, but they would make sure they accelerate any of the web or multimedia-centric aspects that you're starting to see, especially with HTML5 becoming more and more popular in a lot of coding. It could help to maintain the peppiness of your web browsing experience just as solid, along with the SSD that you're incorporating in there. So I think the CPU choice is fairly solid. I think that's overall a fairly peppy build.
Okay. JJ, if you're using a P8P67 motherboard, do you need an 8-pin CPU power, or can you use a 4-pin CPU power if you're not overclocking?
4 should be fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, you should, but generally, if the board is designed for an 8-pin power control, you should be utilizing 8-pin power and control, just because depending on the way that the power supply is designed, you don't know how that rail is being set up. So ideally, I wouldn't recommend splitting it. So if the motherboard has a 8-pin connection, that's what you should use. Now, if the motherboard were to feature supplemental power connections, so like it had an 8-pin plus a 4-pin, the secondary 4-pin is entirely there for optional purposes, and it's not relevant if you're not aggressively overclocking the system under exotic cooling.
In that situation where you have only a 4-pin header or 4-pin power connector coming from your power supply, would you say it would be worth it to, say, go with like a Molex adapter or something like that to make sure that's plugged in?
Well, if they're using such an old PSU that it only has a 4-pin, that's a bigger concern. I mean, you can buy like Corsair. I saw it on Newegg Special. It was awesome. They had like a CX 430 80 plus bronze power supply with like rebate for $20.
That's a really good deal.
That to me, there should be no excuse to not buy a good quality PSU to use for your system. The other big reason being is that not a lot of people consider this, but different CPUs and their architecture have different power requirements at what are called different power states. So when your system goes from like being under heavy load to like hibernation or sleep, or goes into idle power states, the power supply needs to be able to manage those power states correctly. A much older power supply may not correctly support these advanced power states, and you can actually have odd levels of inconsistent experience at resuming certain parts of your hardware or the board as a whole. So I'd much rather spend the $20 or the $30 to at least get a current generation power supply designed for my CPU and for my motherboard, so that I don't run into any of those headaches. And you also then get all the current connections that you need, and you don't have to worry about weird adapters or anything like that.
Makes sense.
How you doing, Paul?
Doing pretty good. I've got my board installed. I got my power supply installed, SSD. Just need to do the optical drive, and I'm just about ready to drop in the video card. But I kind of want to wait until. I usually wait for the video card till the very last possible moment, just to make sure if I need to get at any of the other connectors back there, or tuck a cable away or something like that.
Okay, here's a question for you. Is the in-win D-frame a practical case to build in if you have the budget? What are the pros and cons? Dust?
I love that chassis, and to be honest, I think it is definitely a practical chassis to build with. The reason why is it's so easy to work in because it's large, it's roomy, it's got outstanding airflow. You can mount a huge amount of fans in it.
I like that you can feed your hand kind of back under there just to
even like it looks cool, like the way you can mount the SSDs directly into the frame. And the dust factor, to be honest, I don't really think is that much of an issue, to be honest, even more so than you would have with the regular chassis, especially if you use the tempered side panels. You're going to have a little bit of open venting, but I feel that overall the amount of venting that's exposed is fairly similar to that of a high-performance vented chassis anyways. So with the adage that I tell people that you should be blowing out your system anyways, at least every month and a half, I don't see why that should ever be an issue. And I think the look and the construction of it is amazing. I mean, they're using aircraft-grade precision in that construction, and I've been really impressed with that chassis, so I'm a big fan of it.
I like it too. I mean, it's definitely a premium chassis. It's $400.
But the build quality, you got to admit, the finish, the precision. A lot of people don't notice this because they don't build a lot of systems, but the precision that they have on the mounting threads is outstanding. And that's like little stuff that you don't appreciate unless you're somebody that care about those details. And if you do, I'm a super big fan of that.
So if you've got the money, if you like the design aesthetic, then I'd say go for it. I mean, we like I think JJ's been doing a lot too, but we pretty much use it as a test bed, so it stays open. But I like how easy it is to pick up and move. Like, cases can be so cumbersome sometimes, and getting your arms around one of the typical big box builds, like that one, you can grab it from any angle. You can set it this way. You can set it up and down. You can lay it on its back. It's pretty versatile in that way. So yeah, I mean, and that's unique too. I mean.
It's got a great look. I mean, and I have to respect any company that's willing to innovate. I think that companies that innovate and do something that's different, you should support them. Because in the long run, what it means is you care about seeing new and different and interesting product designs. Because, a lot of users don't always keep that in mind, but it costs a lot of time, effort, money, and resources to develop something that is not a cookie cutter based product. And when you step out of the market and you do something different than that, having market support helps you to keep doing that. And I think Inwin's in that. Like, if you saw some of the newer ones that they unveiled recently, like they're doing the limited edition frames for like a mini ITX. And they have the king. They're going to do a king size
H-frame that's fused. They have a Tau model frame, which is actually glass transparent, that when you press the button, if you guys have seen like high-end like
like the glass at a hotel
with
or
like
whatever.
the frost effects, you actually have a chassis. Yeah, it's
That's
very
pretty cool.
it's very cool. So
Wow.
they're doing some really awesome
I
stuff.
haven't seen that yet. And this is one thing JJ was mentioning that I wanted to say, talking about cleaning out your case every so often. I typically might go more like 3 months myself, but that's because
3 months is okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but keep your computer on your desk. Don't put your computer on the floor. This is me, and this is just a personal pet peeve of mine. I don't want to rant about it too much, but you spend all this money on a computer.
Do you sense it coming?
And then you set it on the floor where you got your cat or your dog and like dander and hair and everything, and you got a intake fan that's creating an area of negative pressure right in front of your case, so it's just drawing everything in, and you're going to get clogged with dust in like a couple weeks versus putting it up on your desk. Not only do you get to look at the system that you built, but you're going to get so much less dust buildup in your case, and it's
The only thing I would say to that is, I think it depends on your environment a little bit, because I'll give you an example. Like, I've got 7 systems at home, and one of them is a TJ07.
And they're all on desks, right? They're all up
my
off the ground?
TJ07 I don't keep on my desk because it's a pretty big chassis. Plus, I've got 14 statues and busts all around my desks.
Whoa,
So
statues?
I want to be able to kind of see those.
What are the statues?
Oh, I'm a comic guy, right? So I've got like a Thanos statue, and I've got like a Captain America statue.
way.
So I've got all kinds of statues and busts. So.
If Mr. Lamb wasn't...
Plus, I have 2 big, 27-inch QHD monitors.
Oh,
too,
well, yeah,
so.
that's... You gotta
Paul?
have room for those. Yes.
When am I going to get to do a build?
Jenny, soon, right?
Yeah, hold him to it, guys.
Don't we have a build set up for Jenny.
Yeah, sure we do. I've seen it.
Well, we had the 3-2-1 build. We were going to do a rehash of that.
I'm getting in caps and large font that we'd like you to talk about what you're doing with your system right now.
People are interested.
Water cooling.
Mr. Lamb is yelling at me from the other room.
Yeah, I'm just guys. So I'm just running the cable lengths. I mean, one of the key things when you're, I guess, laying out water cooling is that you want to be able to kind of verify your cable lengths first and foremost. So I've already used these tubes in multiple system configurations. This was a last minute thing coming out here, so I haven't pre-run the cable lengths. Ideally, you'd want to go ahead and run your corresponding lengths with an entirely fresh set of tubing, and then pick something up like this. You can get it from like Home Depot or like Lowe's or something like that. Just a basic wire cutter, a tube cutter, and it'll make your life a heck of a lot easier than using like scissors or like a knife. But I'm pretty much just routing this from here and then running it into the board. So if I think Kyle's maybe got a shot of it here, but I've got of course the VRM where we've got an inlet and an out, and then we of course have the CPU cooler, which has got an inlet and an out. So once I go ahead and run this in here, I'm going to go ahead and run this in and just start to get this all set up so that I can go ahead and put in the fluid and get this all situated. So pretty much just going through the build process. But I think the thing is that hopefully people will see this is not something to be scared of, as like a lot of people are. I know in our last time that I was over here, when we did the Maximus overclocking, Kyle and Paul, who hadn't really done any overclocking, done any water cooling setup, we kind of went through the basics with them, and I think both of you guys will admit that it was a fairly easy process as compared to what you guys thought it would be.
Yes,
thought it would have been.
It is fairly simple, and
also, can we get the same shot of Paul's computer?
My computer?
So far?
I'm doing more finagling right now.
Sorry, HDMI cable is not long enough.
Can you see? Hold on. Just a moment.
Your system, Paul.
My system is epic because it's got the
impact
Mini ITX motherboard in it. However, JJ, I can see in planning out this system for me to build, clearly worked into the design many potential pitfalls for me to fall into. One of them being that I'm so used to building these quick systems that I put one SSD and I don't have a hard drive or an optical drive in. So whereas I thought I was being very forward thinking with my power supply installation and pre-connecting my extra modular SATA cable so that I could plug in the SSD, I neglected to realize that I also had an optical drive up on top to plug into. So
that's always why most important thing when you're building a system. plan, and pre-lay out your hardware. It's going to save you so much time and effort in the end to just kind of do a place check and just verify that you got things laid out in the way that you want them to, so that when you actually go about the build process, it goes a lot smoother than a lot of times it ends up being for some users, because they get to the point where they're laying everything out and they realize, oh, this isn't going to work, or this doesn't fit, or I need to change this.
I will say that this being my first time building in a Prodigy, which I know is a sin in and of itself, this has been a very popular case.
Shame on you.
And it's been out for some time.
Oh,
no.
You're
Okay,
supposed to use the red ones.
Yeah, no. I'm using those for the VRM and for the CPU. Just I only have.
You won't be able to see them.
Oh no. Well, yeah, you wouldn't. You don't care about this. This is where that's where the hotness is, you know. So that's like if you got a killer pair of shoes, that's where you want to see it on. You don't want to just see it on the little brooch. Although the brooch is a good accessory.
Anyways. All right. Question for
But my
Paul.
point was, I like that they've put thumb screws back here so you can undo them and back the power supply out so you can still get at the modular connection points. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, what was?
All right. I already have a GTX 660 as an upgrade. Should I buy an additional 660 or switch it out for a 770?
Well, the thing to keep in mind is if you do two 660s in SLI, the minimum frame rate performance isn't going to necessarily improve in the same way that it would considerably improve with a 770 card, but the overall maximum frame rate would probably be better in the two SLI cards. But if we consider frame latency and overall minimum frame rate experience, which is the most important driving factors to you as a gamer, the 770 is going to overall be a better experience, I feel, consistently than it would be in the SLI bracket. And you also have to keep in mind that while NVIDIA does an outstanding job with SLI-based profiles for all your games, you're still dependent that ensuring that the gameplay experience is as good as it's going to be is always going to require an SLI profile. If that profile doesn't exist, then you might not necessarily get the performance from that second card.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Well, maybe not exactly, but something to that effect.
I'm going to be doing moderate to heavy gaming. What would be a better CPU, the Intel Core i5 7670K or the AMD FX 8350?
I'm sorry, you said
the 4670K or 8350.
Yes.
The overall gaming performance will be
About the same.
It'll be generally more consistent actually on the Intel platform.
Oh.
But the AMD platform would be able to leverage the fact that it can provide better multitasking performance if you're heavily utilizing. If you're going to do more gaming, I think that the 4670 is probably a better choice. But if you're going to really split your workload, like maybe you do a lot of video, you do photography, and you're gaming, then that multi-core benefit that the AMD platform provides could give you a swing to provide more performance overall. But either which way, both of them are going to be very solid for a gaming system.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't tested those directly against each other myself, so.
Have either of you had a problem with the RAM's hertz rate changing to a lower rate on its own, i.e. a 2133 cards resetting to 1600?
Just by themselves?
RAM?
Yeah, magically.
No, not magically.
Check your UEFI battery, maybe, if it's.
Possibly. I will tell you that Asus knows that through a long amount of RMA analysis, the most common point of failure for a motherboard is due to brownout, surges, spikes, and sags. So abrupt power surges, spikes, and sags, and things like that can reset your board to a default parameter of operation. So this could potentially be an indicator that maybe you have dirty power coming out of your power line. If you've got a surge protector, a lot of people don't realize that surge protectors, most of them just use what are called MOVs as a form of protection. These have a finite amount of times that they can run. So if like your surge protector, you've had it for like 5 years, it might not actually be working anymore. It could just literally be a big outlet. So you might want to consider either upgrading to an inline based surge protection device, which is going to be a little bit more expensive, but it will actually offer active conditioning, or consider replacing the surge protector. Or like Paul said, try to check the CMOS battery if you've got an easy way to try that out.
That clearance right there.
Yeah.
It fits though, right?
It fits. It makes the tiniest bit of oh, but this is plastic even, so no big deal. Yeah, it's like grazing up against the plastic bracket for the drive cage that's removed, but it fits.
It looks really good.
There you
too.
go. GTX 780 DirectCU 2 installed in a Bit Phoenix. Look at this. Look at the space you got there at the end too. You even got a gap. Why didn't you make this card bigger?
JJ, do you have any insight into performance benches with upcoming DDR4?
Sorry guys, I can't give you any information on products that may or may not exist.
All
It's
right.
rumored. Rumors only at this point.
Is the 802.11 AC card that goes into the MPCIe Combo 2 being sold by Asus? Can I buy it in the OEM?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
So like the
can't even read that question.
The 802.11 AC riser card.
Hang on.
So maybe for like a Maximus 5 to be able to take the AC card and swap it into that or something?
Yeah, right now we don't have, we're not producing that. But you can get, like if you've got like a Maximus Gene board and you want to be able to have 811 AC but built into the little mini PCI Express, Newegg has it because I ordered it from them. They actually just started carrying the brand new Intel 811 AC 7620 2x2 based wireless solution with Bluetooth 4.0.
That's just a little MPCIe card, and you just swap it out of the existing bracket that you've already got.
Yeah, you can just pop it in there. So like the Gene board, which doesn't come with Wi-Fi, but it can support it, you can just pop that guy in there and bam, you're rocking and rolling with 811 AC and Bluetooth.
Nice.
Sweet. Okie dokie.
So guys, for totally spazzed, I cannot use these compression fittings because my tubing is actually a smaller diameter, so I'm gonna have to go back to my coolants fittings. Unless if I brought thicker tubing with me, I will use the other ones, but...
I know you had some other tubing over there, but it was the red stuff.
Yeah, I think the diameter fitting will not, I think it's a little bit too large.
All right, here's a question. Are you guys going to resell the 7950 on Newegg? They don't tell us anything.
Are we going to sell the 7950 on Newegg?
Resell it on Newegg.
Resale.
It's not being sold anymore.
Oh, are they talking about like our Asus, like 7950 DirectC2? That card has just been like, it's
Can't read people's minds.
the margin as far as like the yields for the card, because we do bin the cards to try to find a certain metric of performance. It's a little bit lighter on the yield, so it's a little bit harder to get in terms of the quantity. So yeah, it is still an active card. It is not EOL. As far as when it might be back in stock, I can't tell you for sure, but I know that Newegg, you guys sometimes incorrectly, you'll put that the product is like discontinued when it's like out of stock. So just check back, guys, you know, as far as intermittently, because the product actually could still be carried. It just might list it as like discontinued when it's just out of stock.
Yeah, that can happen sometimes.
I think you've said the answer to this question several times already, but it's a different question with the same answer. When will we see right angle 24 pin on more motherboards?
From us, we're not probably going to do that anytime soon. The main reason being is that we've done a lot of internal testing, and we feel that the overall rigidity and signal integrity from the power layout is a bit of a concern. So unless we could feel supremely confident in the quality of it and the design implementation, it's probably not something that we'll do. But we do look at that occasionally, every kind of 6 months or so, and see is there maybe a different option or something that makes sense as far as that goes. But as of right now, we don't have any projected plans to do that on our motherboards.
See, I thought you were going to say that you can't comment on things that may or may not exist.
Oh, well, that's not an NDA, right?
Yeah, that connector exists. It's just a matter of if you guys want to purchase it from the OEM, right, and integrate it onto the board, or?
Yeah, I mean, the connector can exist, but it also is, like I said, because that's a power layout issue, you'd have to lay out your board a little bit differently. We might not want to make those constraints because it could change, like power integrity or like different aspects like that. So that just comes through, like I said, part of our design analysis when we're developing the product design.
Okay, how many watts does a PCIe 6-pin deliver compared to an 8-pin?
150 and 300, I think.
Yeah, you got it.
And
I win. I answered a question.
Good job, woohoo, Paul.
Yay.
Okay, I won't answer anymore. Paul's got it from here.
No, I like when you answer because I'm more confident that it's the correct answer.
JJ, will there be a golden GPU from Asus?
A golden, ooh. So like you mean to like match our like Z87 boards?
Hey, that'd be cool.
We've actually discussed it with our VGA team, and this is one of those things like, hey guys, we really want your guys' feedback. We've been discussing with our graphics division, maybe expanding the DirectC2 lineup to be customized for our board divisions. So having like branded shrouds for like tough boards, keeping a certain color scheme for ROG boards, maybe having a color scheme for, you know, the mainstream series bolts or gold. But that's only going to happen if we get enough really feedback and commitment from the community. So that's where I would say if you guys are vocal about it, then you'll probably be more likely to see it. Until we get enough feedback from the community, though, it might not be something that we'll proactively come out with, and we'll stay more focused on producing the current red and black design.
All right, will Asus be making PC cases anytime soon?
No. We have a huge amount of respect for the partners that we work with in the industry, and we work really closely with them. And as of right now, although Asus is always actively, I think, expanding into new product categories, and we're always doing a lot of stuff that's interesting and different, right now we don't project ourselves being focused at getting into products like cooling or like chassis or like power supplies or things like that.
Okay, what is the very best sound card available in your opinion, JJ?
If you wanted to go straight, absolute best quality, unquestionably is the Essence 1 Muses Edition.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know, if I don't know if is there like ratings on like Twitch TV? You know?
Ratings?
Yeah, is there ratings? But like I would say, to me personally, I've got about 12 audiophile grade headphones. So I'm talking about very expensive headphones, stuff like Hi-Fi Man HE400, Hi-Fi Man 6. You know, I've got just a multitude of different, you know, cans from different like Odyssey, LC2s, different things like that. The listening experience on a Muses Edition Zonar card when you're listening to 24-bit 190 Hz audio is literally orgasmic. It is it is like fall back in your chair and forget that everything else exists, and just the transparency, the neutrality, and just like the warmth and the tonality is just, it's amazing. I'm literally blown away. If you can't afford that, then you know, one thing that you can consider is you can get the Zonar Essence 1 by itself, and then later on you could always upgrade the op amps, because the Muses Edition is exactly the same thing as the Essence 1. It's just we've changed every single one of the op amps to the Muses op amps. They're expensive. They're going to be between like $50 to $75 per each op amp that you put in there, but you could upgrade or change the sound characteristics. That being said, if that's still too rich, the STX is still unquestionably, I still have it in my system, and I've had it since the day one that we launched that card. I still feel it's the absolute best PCIe sound card on the market. So really, only unless you go up to the Essence 1, which is an external high-performance USB-based stack solution, are you going to be getting a better sound card experience. And I think the STX for the money is an outstanding card, and it drives headphones really, really well. So I'm really happy with it. Oh man, now you're getting me all Jonesing. I love audio. So I'm a really big audio guy, if you guys don't know.
All right, any
Somebody
news?
moved my compression fittings.
What?
No, I'm looking at the other ones. It's okay, I will find them.
I hid them.
Paul probably
Wait.
moved, Paul
Were they black?
He probably moved them because he wants to try to beat me.
Hey man, I'm almost done.
Anyway, okay.
I think.
Any news on more ROG Black Edition boards, and what happened to the ROG Expander?
So the ROG Expander was a limited edition product, and we sold it for a limited period of time when it was out for the Rampage 3 Extreme board. Black Edition, I can't comment, but all I can tell you is stay tuned. Stay tuned.
All right.
Stay tuned, guys.
Someone wants to know what your experience working with Tech Syndicate on their Asus videos was like.
Oh man, Logan and...
No. You start with not as cool as Newegg TV, and then finish.
Oh, okay. So totally, I've got a very deep and ever-growing love and passion for Newegg TV. It's where I first shot my very first videos, and I will never hold anybody as dear as Paul and his team. But working with Logan and Wendell over at the TK was great. They were really great guys. We, I think, got there and we shot for something like 18 hours straight. So I think I got there after being on the road for literally something like 2 weeks straight. Had to go there with literally like 2 hours worth of sleep. I'm having no less than probably 10 hours of sleep in the last 4 days of getting there, and shooting that straight until like something like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were always just great. And so it was really, their community was outstanding too. And like I expressed that to all the people. So, and the same people that go out there and watch this stuff or comment on the videos and give their feedback and appreciation, I first and foremost always throw out the biggest kudos to you guys, because it's for you guys that we do this type of content, and we respect and appreciate your guys' feedback and enthusiasm for these kind of components, and that's the reason why I do it. So I just looked at it as an opportunity to reach out to more users. So it was great, but definitely Newegg TV holds a special place in my heart.
I was actually curious, because that's something that I would like to sit in on, is just you and Wendell having like a 4-hour conversation about anything that pops into your heads. Like that would be really fascinating. That would be absolutely.
We had some good talks, because it was like an hour like drive, or maybe more than that, getting from the airport to where they were at. So yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about a lot of stuff.
Nice.
Okay, what would be the best entry-level Asus sound card to replace my onboard audio to pair up with Logitech G23? I'm sorry. Ugh, forgive me guys, I'm too sick. To pair up with the Logitech G230 headset.
Zonar DGX, man, for the money, it's like, I think like on Newegg you can usually get it for like 30 bucks. It's really inexpensive. It's got a really good isolated power delivery. It's got a nice punchy little op amp to it, which gives a nice bass range extension to it. Gives a little bit louder gain levels too, so it's going to be louder and cleaner and crisper than the integrated audio. So I think it's a really reasonable sound card, and it's pretty much better than any sound card that you would be able to get. And like I said, that's the same class of sound as even what we're going to offer like in our Supreme FX audio-based discrete bass design. So yeah, it's a great card for the money. It's a really good value.
All right, is the Cooler Master Iceberg worth it versus getting the side-on?
Side-on? I like the side-on a little bit more in my opinion, because I like the look of the side-on more than the Iceberg. That's my personal opinion.
I can weigh in on this, because I've actually spent some time with both of them. I'm a big fan of the Iceberg. It's the only thing about it that I don't like is the mounting solution for non-2011. I wish they had a backplate. As a pain in the butt backplates can be to install sometimes, it just seemed not. It seemed a little bit weak, because you get these little plastic nubs. You kind of pop them through the board, just like the little prongs on the other side that hold them in place, and then you screw the screws into them, and those go through the prongs and kind of keep them split out so that they don't come out the other way. But it didn't seem that sturdy, and you really kind of have to like hold it from one side and screw the screw in from the other side to get it going all the way. Apart from that though, like if you're buying it for a socket 2011 or something like that with the universal backplate mount, I really like that unit. I appreciate the fact that it's expandable. Yeah. As somebody,
I think it's a nice unit for sure. I just think for me I like the side-on a little bit more. But both unit, either which ways, they're great cooling, great solid performance. But like you said, the expandability is nice. In my experience, most users tend to never really expand things. So you might be purchasing more than what you need. But that's relative to you knowing your upgrade path and what you think makes the most sense for you. So, but I don't think you could go wrong with getting either one.
If you're considering it with the intent to upgrade in the future, if you really are thinking like, hey, in another 3 months, I'm going to be able to drop $100 on a water block for my GPU, and I want to integrate the loop. If you're looking for something that will be an entry point right now for your CPU, and you're going to be able to step up in the future to a full custom loop, then I think it's a great way to go. And the only other one I like more than that at this point is going to be the H220. And I know a rumor about that particular unit, which I probably also shouldn't talk about quite yet. But yeah, also very good, very good effective cooling. What? I can't get this.
I have a request to know what are the specs in your personal rigs right now.
JJ's got like.
I think that's probably easier for Paul to answer since I've got 7 rigs. That would take me a lot of time to break them all down. And actually I've even got some secondary rigs that are kind of always in makeshift work, but I've got, I think actually every active chipset almost running right now. I've got X79, Z87, Z77. I still have an X58 box. I've got 2 AMD systems. I have a 990FX and I've got an FM2. I still actually have a running system that I play with, which is based off an FM1 based system as well. So I've got a little bit of everything. So yeah, I mean, spec-wise, they're all over the place. You know, I've got stuff that I'm testing for power efficiency, and sometimes I like to play around with like having an FTP server or a DLNA streaming box or NAS or, you know, my gaming system. So I'm kind of all over the place. So I'd say spec is a little bit harder for me. I think Paul's probably easier. He's probably got like 1 or 2 systems that stay pretty much the same.
I have one system that's been the same for a while. I have like 3 systems if you just include mine and not my wife. But the main system is I have an X79 system with the 3960X and 32 gigs of RAM, and the Asus GTX 670 DirectCU2, which is an excellent card. So that's kind of like my main day-to-day system. So I'll use that for video gaming as well as video production stuff that I do and editing. Apart from that, I have a couple systems I've been using for testing lately. So I tested a bunch of water coolers, including the Iceberg 240 and the Swiftech H220 and the Corsair H110 and the Thermaltake Water 2.0 Extreme. I did that with the Sabertooth Z77 board with the 3770K and the NZXT Phantom 8, what is it, the 830? That one down there. They're the same one as that one.
This one's the 850 down here.
850?
You're talking about
whichever one.
Yeah.
Yeah, whichever one that big one is.
I just read the box.
Box? No, that's the power supply.
Oh.
That's the case.
Oh, you're pointing at
Phantom
a case.
830. I'm pretty sure it's 830.
I'm so sorry. Excuse me.
No problem. So yeah, that one I set up specifically for testing water coolers.
Okay.
But I'm sure I'm going to do some other stuff with it too. And then the third system, the test bed I set up is on a Z87 Pro with the 4770K, and that's like an open test bed. And I was using that recently. I actually grabbed all of the 4770Ks that we currently had here in the office because I wanted to bin them and see which ones performed better than others. So I used the Z87 Pro and the 4-way optimization, specifically the TPU function, to automatically overclock each chip to just get a quick approximation of what each one was capable of achieving. And we actually got a really good batch. We got a set that they were all hitting 4.6 to 4.8. I had 2 that did 4.8 on 2 cores at least. Cherry! So yeah, pretty stoked on that one. And yeah, so I guess those would be like kind of the 3 systems that I have set up right now at home. Although none of them are set up because I just moved and they're still sitting in boxes.
I was going to say, I felt like I moved a lot more than that when I helped you move.
Well, I mean, I probably have enough parts to assemble 2 or 3 more computers, but
okay.
You know,
all right.
just referring to the functional ones at the time.
This is for JJ. When do you think we will ever see an increase in bus width
Bus width and who?
I can't talk anymore. Leave me alone. In bus width in computers, will we ever move from 64-bit? Thanks.
Well, I think if I understand their question correctly, you know, a lot of things are based on interconnect efficiency, and there's a lot of other architectural aspects that tie into that. And right now, I think at least for the mainstream, you're not necessarily going to be pushing past that anytime soon. Really, where you're looking at more advanced, I guess, interconnect buses to be able to leverage more bandwidth is more in the server and the data space data server environments. So in that, you're going to continue to see evolutions, but relative to the standard kind of consumer grade-based platforms, you're going to still be seeing those things kind of stay around for the foreseeable future.
All right. In your opinions, which modular power supply would be best for gaming?
Oh, any of them? No.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, just go with a solid quality vendor. You know, I mean, you know, be Seasonic, could be Corsair, you know, could be Antec. You know, the big thing is just pick a company that is reliable, it's got a good quality reputation. You know, I definitely would recommend, of course, always go with an 80+ base power supply to help to ensure solid efficiency. But, you know, I think part of it might come down a little bit to some of the aesthetic considerations, you know, as far as what your color theme of your system is. So one might fit a little bit better than another. But there's really a lot of great choices right now that you can pick from. So, you know, I think that's up to you. Me, I'm a big matcher. I like to match components if a company can provide me those same items. So like if it's a Corsair box that I'm building in, I like to favor a Corsair PSU. So that's kind of, I think your preference, but there's a lot of really great options.
Yeah, and bear in mind, if you're looking at power supplies and you're trying to kind of go through reviews online, there's a stark difference between power supply reviews. In fact, you don't see that many power supply reviews out there because the equipment that's needed to properly test a power supply is very expensive and requires a much higher level of knowledge than, I'm sure JJ knows it, but I can sort of read those reviews and get a good idea, but the ones off the top of my head, the power supply review sites that I like, Johnny Guru,
HardOCP does some
HardOCP does good ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of different sites that do that type of content, but yeah, I think it just comes down to more so what's kind of the build that you're looking at and things like that.
Yeah, and also remember there's there's not as many power supply manufacturers or OEMs as there are power supply brands. So it's also kind of curious to find out every once in a while when you go and you realize that there's like 3 or 4 different brands of power supplies you can buy that all actually OEM from the same location.
That is true, but even when you do have OEMs and ODMs, one important thing to keep in mind is that the ODM and ODM relationship is that they can still request customization to the topology. Okay. So they can still take kind of like the reference and still make tweaks and modifications to aspects of it to be able to produce a different design. But even though it's kind of transplanted to maybe on an original design that's been developed.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily always just getting like the same thing with a new coat of paint on it.
There's something going on and we're not privy to it. But that's okay.
I was told to look less sick and some other things.
Sure. Just to any of you who might have just joined us and were wondering what the heck is going on right now, this is Newegg TV. We're broadcasting live on our Twitch channel, which is probably what you're watching right now. You might also be watching this in the future as we upload it to...
my other ear finally...
Oh, JJ, yeah. But we're here with JJ from Asus. We're building a couple systems based on the new Asus ROG, a couple Asus ROG motherboards, the Maximus 6 formula, which JJ has been working with over there. Maximus 6 Impact, which I may or may not be done with my build over here. And we're also answering questions. So Jenny's been helping us out and firing off questions, which are being gathered from Twitch chat. So if you guys want to post a question, go right ahead. And we're going to keep building until we're done. And at the end, we'll turn the computers on and they will work. That's our goal. Anyway.
Okay.
That's good, right?
So let's get back to questions.
Okay.
Sorry.
More questions.
Anyway. What Asus GPU with GPU Boost 2.0 do you recommend based on performance features for the price? Also, any comments on your experience with GPU Boost 2.0?
Yeah, I think GPU Boost 2.0 is actually great. It's been really big benefit for us because since our non-reference based designs really provide such a much cooler level of operation than the reference-based designs, our cards are able to significantly boost to much higher frequencies and consistently operate at that. So if you had like a target frequency of, let's say the card's running like at 980, we could be boosting all the way up to like 1100 megahertz consistently, offering a much better range of performance. So that follows always the adage of what we're trying to do with DC2 cards. It's about being cool and quiet and giving you superior performance. As far as what card to go with, they're all great, and they're all full non-reference based power designs, have great power delivery, really good fan optimization to be quiet in terms of operation, and they all feature our specialized designs, things like our dust-proof based fans, which give you better reliability. So I think the GPU, it just comes down to what your price point is and what's the resolution in the games that you're running at. Kind of sweet spot, I think right now for a lot of gamers is like our GTX 760 DirectX 2 card. Yeah. It's a hard card to beat in terms of the price to the performance that it offers. So I think that's a really great solution. But AMD's also made some significant inroads with really offering improved performance with their latest Catalyst drivers. And the 7870, the performance at that price point is also very good as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd say definitely 760 DirectX 2 OC is it's an awesome card. It's cool, it's quiet, performs great.
Huh.
What's your view on cube cases? Thinking about getting one for my first build, thanks.
Cube?
Cube.
Yeah, if they're referring to the Bender cube, they're not bad. I'd say that sometimes maybe some of the specialized features in terms of the kind of inside of the routing and maybe some of the housings are a little bit more simplified and streamlined. So I think there are other options out there that definitely would give you more flexibility, but they're not bad choices. I think it just comes down to what's your expectation in terms of the look and the feel, and how much flexibility you want on the inside of the chassis in terms of how you're going to be upgrading it or expanding upon it.
JJ and Paul, excuse me. How long do you expect your personal rigs to last?
Personal rig?
Yes.
5. I mean.
And I think that's all relative, you know?
Yeah.
Like I upgrade my system every time there's a new chipset launch, and sometimes even more frequently than that.
Yeah,
but I'd
probably
say a reasonable lifespan is 24 to 48 months.
Yeah.
And if you're really looking at a high-end build that's done right in long range, you could be looking at 36 to 60 months with minor upgrades.
Yeah, I mean the thought I had was I probably have 2 or 3 at least personal builds that are still what's going on?
Didn't turn off the receiver.
Oh, are we
Put it out, he just got 600 viewers.
What just happened?
You told me.
Yeah, but he didn't turn off the receiver first.
I thought he said to turn off that before batteries.
No, you have to turn off that receiver.
Are we still live?
Yes.
Sorry, everyone. We're
Sorry
having
about
some
that,
sound
guys.
issues. JJ's mic needs new batteries. We apologize for the very loud noise you just heard.
Don't worry, I still have battery life, so I don't need to remove my batteries.
600 viewers right there.
Sorry, we apologize. I hope many of you weren't listening on headsets. Okay.
But if you'd like to provide feedback on the noise you just heard, head over to youtube.com/awesomesaucenews. Go ahead and post a comment on Kyle's latest video and let him know how your ears are feeling right now.
Sorry, guys.
All right.
I was only a little bit worried that was going to happen at some point today.
What cases can the H230? H230, yeah, that number.
That's the new Swift, if they talk about the SwiftTech H230, that's the successor to the H220, I believe.
Yeah, the triple one, right?
Is it triple? So it's a 360.
Yeah, I think that's the triple one. It's like more advanced, but
yeah.
I thought that one wasn't going to be retail availability.
I know if you're in the U.S., you probably aren't going to be able to buy that, at least not under the SwiftTech name. But I shouldn't talk too much more about that.
I would say if you want more information on that, check out SwiftTech's site. I'm sure they'll release information because they've already started to post information about that. So if that's something you're interested in,
yeah, but you're going to need a case with a 360 millimeter radiator support. So that's 3x120, and there are cases out there that will support that out of the box right now.
Although if you're starting to go that end, I definitely would start to consider that you could be looking at real water cooling options
just
as well.
Purchasing your
whether it's SwiftTech's own Ultima lines or something like this coolants unit as well. So you got different options.
Indeed.
This tubing is not playing nice. I've used it a bit too much and it's starting to kink
Question
on me.
for Paul.
Yes.
I recently installed an SSD, a Crucial M500 240 gig, and forgot to enable AHCI. How important is it to reformat and enable AHCI?
You don't. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's good.
Yeah, I totally cut Jenny off. I'm sorry, Jenny. You don't need to reformat. Fortunately, there's a BIOS change you can do. Basically, you restart your computer. No, how's it go?
Yeah, well, you need to first download the actual AHCI conversion tool from Microsoft to implement the driver support, because if you just change it to AHCI dynamically and that driver isn't present, then the system will stop error or blue screen when you make the conversion change. So it won't initialize correctly. On sometimes a newer operating system, depending on the chipset, like Windows 8, you might be able to do it dynamically. But ideally, the RST driver, when it installs in IDE mode versus AHCI mode, is different, and it specifies that installation when you actually install that driver. But like Paul says, you don't need to reinstall. You could just make the change in your UEFI or your BIOS.
Yeah, there's tutorials online, so just look up that specific problem.
Yeah.
I've seen several out there that will.
Microsoft has a web page on it that allow you to download the actual conversion tool.
Yeah.
But it's super important that you do so because things like trim or native command queuing, which is advanced levels of performance aspects of your drive, will not work without the HCI operation.
Running an SSD in IDE mode is it's like killing your SSD. It's basically like you might as well have bought a mechanical drive or something like that. So definitely worth doing. And also another thing with SSDs that I have been more inclined towards doing more recently, and this was with some suggestions from JJ as well as some other articles.
Spare area?
Read online, is spare area.
Give me a fist bump!
Yeah. So if you have a 240 gig SSD,
this is some knowledge dropping, guys.
Just go into your Windows management, your disk management utility. Just shrink down your partition to 200 gigs.
Yeah.
You give yourself 20% or so, just unformatted area. The drive controller will automatically recognize that. And without getting into too much detail, basically you're going to maintain that drive's performance over time much better.
Especially also as you fill the drive too.
Exactly.
So you just help to ensure much better read and write performance over time for your drive.
So yeah, and chances are if you do have an SSD, even if you've got like a 240 or 256 gig one, chances are you also have a mechanical drive as well. So even though you're losing that space as usable space for you, it will be more worth it over the life of your drive. And you know, if you need more space, you know, drop stuff onto a mechanical drive or get another SSD. Because you can't have too many SSDs. That's my
no,
philosophy.
you cannot. How you looking there, Paul? Are you ready to start?
Yeah, I could probably do a test.
I'd say you go because sadly over here I'm dealing with a little bit of kinkage, so
no worries.
I'm trying to stream this out. Hopefully I don't have to change my cable here.
I'm sure you'll be all right. Just to be perfectly honest here, since I did feel like I was falling behind and I wanted to jump ahead and not be last. I didn't include all of the extra components that you brought in.
What did you cheat? So what you did?
Cheated.
He cheated.
I skipped over,
guys.
I skipped over the LED strips and I did do the big fan in the front, but I didn't add
Okay, well at least you added the ODD, right? ODD and the big fan.
Yeah, optical drive's up there, so
all right.
Functionally it's fine. Just not quite as much bling as you would have seen with the LED strips and the addition of another fan. The other fan I could probably drop in there pretty easily, but I have no idea how I'm going to start this thing up, actually. I need
Didn't you connect the power button?
There's a power strip back. No, everything's wired up inside. I can boot it, but I would need to connect it to a monitor or something. Right? Sure. All right, I'm going to walk away. It's just going to be JJ all by himself up there.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
It's JJ.
You guys enjoying the live stream? We're rocking and rolling this just for you, man. I've been working for 3 weeks straight, but you know, like when they told me, Vu said, hey, do you guys want to come down here and you want to do a live build at the same time? I was like, of course.
Yes.
Dude.
Yes,
Newegg,
you would.
Viewers, live stream, Maximum 6 impact and formula, you know it. I was like,
that's why we love JJ.
You guys
need
are
a
always
keyboard.
So Kyle, what's the last best game you played?
So far?
Yeah.
Like lately?
Yeah.
Hotline Miami.
Hotline Miami.
I knew he was gonna say that.
That's a big time void right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hotline Miami.
How about you?
I don't know. I've been playing a lot of little different things, but like I really enjoy playing Van Helsing. It's like this kind of like an RPG like action like platformer kind of game.
Is it based on the movie?
No, not based on the movie, but based on the character, right? So it's like, you know, like you've got like a vampire hunter, but he's like a monster hunter, not a vampire hunter. But it's like really cool. It's got a cool animation system. It's got, I think, a really cool storyline. The graphic engine is cool. Nice. It's got good level design. You got kind of like this side character that helps you, which is like she's a female like ghost spirit. It's like a medium and like can help to like assist you or like attack for you. So it's like cool in terms of like how you want to create your dynamic. Do you want to be more melee? Do you want to be more range? And you can help to offset that. If you want to be melee, she can be distance for you or assist to heal you. I think like the upgrade tree
and like the attack tree is really interesting in terms of how they have it mapped out. So I've been really enjoying that. I thought the rebalance mod and the new physics animation and the the balancing mod and the physics animation system patch that they did for The Witcher 2 was amazing. So I went back and like loaded that in Witcher 2, and I was totally just like enjoying that. Like I went back and played the arena mode and played back some of the game saves that I had, and that was really awesome too.
Nice, man.
I've
Finally got the chance to play a little bit of BioShock Infinite too, and that's been pretty awesome.
Your mic was off?
Yeah.
Nice. I've been playing Grand Theft Auto 4, actually.
Oh, have you tried it with the ice mod?
No.
Oh, dude, go try the ice mod.
Usually it's
You have a PC, man. You
I
need
know.
the ice mod.
Okay, well, I've been playing it at 2560 by 1600.
It still looks awesome at that.
It looks awesome.
Yeah. But with the ice mod, it looks more awesome.
Okay. Is it just a visual mod, pretty much?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I might try that. Because I told myself I didn't want to jump into mods until I had beat the game, because I was
Oh yeah. No, I'm totally with you there. Like, yeah, I don't like to. I'm not actually like a big mod guy. Like, I'm like a purist, like in a lot of ways. But it adds such like a really a big improvement to the graphics engine, and just takes it to a whole nother level that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I had thought about doing some graphical ones, but I mean, I was just still. I got it for Xbox 360 originally, and I played it a fair amount. I played it through.
Oh, I'm sorry. I continue.
I played through maybe 20% of the game before I got bored because the graphics were so minimal, right? I'm trying to dig myself out of the hole.
All right, I have to say goodbye now.
Oh, Jenny's got to go.
Yeah, I have to go.
All right, everybody.
Is it really
wave,
6?
Wave.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, good.
For realsies.
Really?
I figured as much because I knew
Thanks,
I would
guys. It's been fun.
I spent as much time trying to figure out this kinking on this tubing than I have getting the whole thing together.
All right. Well, Jenny's
and your
heading out,
kinky
so
tubing,
everyone
JJ.
say a fond farewell
Thank
to
you so
Jenny.
much.
Thank
It
you
was
so
great
much for all your help today, Jenny.
Computer.
Sorry.
It's all right. We got computers all over the place.
Well,
Can you turn the blue receiver?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Oh, JJ, I was going to ask you, you can answer this for the audience too. So for the ice mod for GTA 4, how much more intensive is it on your video card, and what kind of video card would you need?
it's fairly intensive. I mean, I'd say in some situations it could maybe impact the graphics performance by like double. But it's significant. I mean, it's a top to bottom rebalancing, mod. So things from textures to lighting to real-time effects, all of that gets entirely adjusted, and it works well with a couple of other specialized mods that have been incorporated, but it will significantly tax the system. So you really get the best experience on high-end modern generation GPU. So 670, 680 kind of class GPU, or if you've got anything like 760, 770, 80, then you're in a much better target territory. But it's taxing for sure.
Yeah, I have a 650 Ti boost in my HTPC right now. I've been playing GTA 4 on my TV. I'm like, I don't know if I can handle it. It's kind of close. It's kind of close.
All right.
I think I might just leave the kink in there so you guys can make, you can critique on that, but at least to show you that it's up and running, I might just leave the partial kink in there and at least allow it to show that it's up and running. I'm bothered by the fact that you have yours up.
You are? I told you I skipped a bunch of stuff. Yay! My computer works.
She's overtime. We're at 5:45 p.m. Yeah, we're late.
If you're just joining us, we've been doing a live stream here talking with JJ from Asus. JJ and I are doing a couple builds based on the new Asus ROG boards, specifically the Maximus 6 Formula, which JJ is working with over there. Maximus 6 Impacts Mini ITX board, which I'm working with right here.
How did you do this? This is
I
insane.
just ran that cable.
Oh, okay,
I was like,
good.
oh, good, Jenny's. I mean, not good that Jenny's not here, but at least
was
it allowed
rude.
me to run that cable.
After all that time and effort, she gave
No,
me
she did a great job, but it was right as I was running that cable that she moved. So, hey, look, guys! It's the Maximus 6. God, hey, Steve, how you doing?
There's room
buddy?
here, sort of.
Maximus 6 Impact. What is going on over there?
Mayhem.
Maximus 6 Impact UEFI BIOS. Check it out. So, what? I can't move the computer. I'll push stuff.
Everybody, Paul's going to show you how to achieve 7 gigahertz.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're just going to go over to our AI overclock tuner and set it to manual. And we will jump down here to our CPU core ratio, and we want to go ahead and do this per core. And we also want this, oopsie. Yeah. And we'll just go ahead and bump this up.
He's about to make my overclocking guide that we did at Newegg TV just like chopped liver style.
We're just going to set these, we'll set these,
owned.
Done.
We'll set these all to 70.
Bam! Ugh.
And we're just going to go ahead and dial in our 7 gigahertz overclock
We're
here.
just going to throttle like crazy.
Yeah, it's really handy that you can manually just punch in the numbers right here in the UEFI BIOS when you're setting up your 7 gigahertz overclock.
Oh man, I think you gotta bump up the DRAM divider too, though.
The DRAM?
Yeah,
you go for like 4,000 ish DRAM frequency. It only goes up to 3,200.
Oh well, you know
JJ.
you can increase the BCLK, you know. So let's maybe like bump it up a bit.
We should go with like the 200 megahertz. Wait, can't you do the straps with the?
Well, yeah, you could, but you could just modify the BCLK for Kidsy. You could also go to an uneven. Yeah, you could go to an uneven frequency diode too.
This is okay. I'm going to exit without saving.
Yes, that's the best way to handle that.
And because if you guys recall, it's a stock Intel heatsink fan that we have in there. So
it's a special one, limited edition.
Limited edition.
It was produced exclusively
Intel
for
heatsink
Newegg.
fan. It is actually the heatsink fan from a 2600K, and I know those overclocked really well. So right, that should translate over to the.
It's a
4770K.
very advanced cooling design there.
All right, cool.
I'll read this. Animus of Chaos has a question for you, JJ. What's your feeling about Huma and technology like Huma, HSA?
You know, I think that AMD has been doing some really interesting things with that, and you know, a lot of this comes down to intellectual property and how different companies want to approach their overall design implementations. And I think it ultimately comes down to how you develop the actual IP, and the software and everything can be either beneficial or not beneficial, depending on the platforms that you're designing for. So I think that if people are willing to research and take advantage of the aspects of what HSA has to offer, then you're going to have an amazing, I think, architecture and platform that's going to have a huge amount of legs and flexibility to it. So it just comes down to, you know, are people willing to code for it, work with it, and be able to take advantage of everything that's offered for it. But, you know, when you're working up against, you know, industry standards and other practices, it can be difficult. So I think either which way, I don't view it negative in any respect. I think it's a positive factor. I think there's a lot of really interesting design aspects to what could potentially be implemented in the future if it really gets a lot of tractionability. But that's kind of one of those things that it's going to depend on how the industry and how the consumers and how developers respond to it.
Okay.
Do you agree with that, Paul?
I have no idea what Huma is.
Okay.
I read that question and I was like, what is it? I have no idea. I haven't even heard of this.
It's a unified memory architecture.
Oh, okay.
So it's part of kind of the way that AMD is working on a lot, along with other companies.
That's
it's not just them, but it's part of kind of the design philosophy in terms of how different technologies are going to be interfacing together in terms of GPUs with memory and the CPU and different types of buses. So it's just a different way of being able to leverage everything dynamically together than maybe the way that it exists right now, which might be more compartmentalized, but maybe it just depends really. And that's the thing, like I was saying, it's like, you know, it's like current applications right now. How many applications are really multi-threaded and well executed for taking advantage of our modern generation cores versus saying, should we continue to prioritize high frequencies and single thread based operation, right? Okay. Both have certain levels of merit and design benefits to them. Maybe one is easier to code for and other ones are significantly more complex. But it doesn't mean that there's not merits to both. So I think it just comes down, like I said, to everything altogether, kind of how it plays out.
Cool.
Okay.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Kudos to whoever asked that.
I like this guy's name. International Rectifier asks, questions for JJ, once again. Do the Asus GPUs and the Asus motherboards have a bypass to the NVIDIA voltage limit?
We do in certain ways. So on our certain graphics cards, like the Asus 780 DirectC 2, they do feature what's referred to as our GPU hot wire technology. That means that...
Sorry.
It's okay.
Man down.
When used with a compatible Asus series motherboard, you can run direct leads from the graphics card to the board that will allow you to drive additional voltage to it, so that you can go ahead and have more headroom. So there are ways in terms of us being able to provide more power. Part of that also comes in that power efficiency in terms of the total power delivery can be manipulated by how we design the overall power topology and implement the power componentry on the card. A lot of people don't understand this, but graphics cards are susceptible to the same type of V droop that a CPU is. So when you overclock a CPU and the voltage drops, the same thing happens actually to a GPU. So if you can design a PCB that has actually better efficiency, has better consistent voltage power output capabilities, and a number of different power topology variables in terms of the total design, you can help to, even at the same voltages as compared to another card, you can maybe get better results. So from top to bottom, that's always our goal within a non-reference based design, is to give you the best performance that's possible within the envelope of the design that's been sanctioned by us and NVIDIA, as well as also trying to figure out creative ways for us to push even past that and through options like the VGA hot wire technology.
Nice. Cool. JJ, do you still have LEDs that you're installing?
On my system, I don't actually. Mine didn't ever have LEDs. That
Oh,
were
I thought
being
somebody had a
installed.
pack of LEDs.
No,
Yeah.
he gave me
Paul
LEDs
skipped
and
out. He
skipped
decided
them.
to try to just beat me, so he.
I skipped them in order
Well,
to have a working computer.
It's a question relative to that, or relating to that, I should say. My name is Hound asked, how do you install LED strips in a computer? If you want to illustrate that maybe for him.
How do you install? Well, most.
I think you could visually show them. Yeah, it might be an easy
it's
way.
right over here.
So I got a question for you, I guess. Paul, I know you guys are going to have to end up draining this, so I don't know how much effort you really want to put into it. If you guys don't want to have to drain it, do you want me to actually...
Well, hey, if we just kept it, we wouldn't have to drain it. How about that, JJ? That was a good, Santa laugh.
Yeah.
That's not possible.
Some extended burn-in testing, right?
Yeah.
You guys are going to need to do some evaluation on the performance of this system, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we need
You're
to do.
right. I mean, for the benefit of the viewers.
It's always for the viewers.
It's always for the viewers, right? You just want to be able to tell them exactly how this system configuration would perform, overclocking temperatures, frame rate,
We're on the same page.
Of course. And it's going to be most effective for you, right, when you run it in your home, right?
That would just benefit us all if I did that. Okay. And now Kyle's being replaced by Rachel.
Yeah, we actually do need to finish this stream off, unfortunately, pretty quick here.
Yeah, so it's your call.
Yeah. Kyle's saying goodbye, Kyle.
Bye, boss. Good to see you,
We'll
man.
say goodbye to Kyle. All right,
Well,
so
it's done. I got mine done.
JJ's is done.
I can't turn
Mine is done. LED strips are pretty basic these days. I mean, if you purchase ones that are designed for computers, they're going to have little connection points like this, and these ones, particular ones from BitPhoenix, have little connectors, so you can connect more than one of them together. And then over at this end, you just got the little plug, and you route that over to this little adapter that's included. And Kyle actually found a little a cute little thing he did with this. He got an adapter to connect this instead of just to Molex. He plugged it into his fan controller.
Yeah, you can get.
And then he was able to use his fan controller to
adjust the brightness.
The brightness of the LED. So that was pretty cool.
But they're pretty easy to work with.
Pretty
and you got
straightforward.
you just pull that off on the other side and you just affix it to whatever surface you want it, and you're bam, you're good to go.
So that's all there really is to it. And these BitPhoenix ones, they're really solid.
They're really nice. I like the quality of them.
Yeah.
They use a really good material. They're bright. They're clean. You can also kind of extend them. You can keep linking them together, which is kind of cool.
And they'll, as far as connecting them to your case specifically, they'll usually come with an adhesive strip on the back, like this one's got a 3M adhesive strip.
And you
can just stick it wherever in there. And then usually the way to go is to mount the LED at a place in your case where you can't see it, but where you can see the light that it reflects onto other things. I mean, just aesthetically, I tend to prefer that. Otherwise, if you can see the LED itself, it tends to be really bright, and it washes out everything else that's in the case. So, that's pretty much it. But it's a nice way to add a little bling to your system. I built an orange system for my wife, and I actually got an orange LED strip when I was in Taiwan and added it to her computer, and she thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's a nice way to add accent lighting. Definitely.
Yes, but I unfortunately do think we need to wrap up this particular live stream.
Can I shotgun these questions to you guys? Just like boom, 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 and finish
Sure.
it?
Let's go with 2 more questions for Paul and 2 questions for JJ.
That's fine. Okay. All right, JJ, you have one here. We have. They want to know what's the best Sabertooth R2 990FX or Gen 3 990FX for AMD and why?
Isn't there only one?
Yeah, well, there was two. One I don't think it's actually for sale anymore. It was the limited edition Gen 3 model that we have. So that was an exclusive model. It was only limited to, I think, a certain production allocation run. So right now the only Sabertooth board that we have for the AMD lineup is the Sabertooth 990FX R2.0. So that's a great board. It's up to date, fully supports Bashir, it overclocks, it's stable, it's solid, got a great feature set, so can't go wrong with it.
Nice, okay. Let's see, I guess this is sort of for both you guys. With the AHCI topic, what if I have 2 hard drives in RAID and 1 SSD, and my motherboard, I can't enable both modes, AHCI and RAID mode? What do I do then? I've been using RAID mode. I usually use
just
AHCI.
use RAID mode.
Yeah, that's okay.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
RAID is it supports the AHCI protocol in terms of the transmission. So you will still maintain the benefits as long as you make sure and have the RSD driver console installed. You will be able to make sure that that single drive is operating in AHCI mode.
Perfect. All right. Question for JJ. Will we see anything else like the Ares 2 in the future?
You know, these really high-end specialized dual GPUs or just like these kind of low, limited production GPUs that we do, we're always interested in trying to push the envelope. So it's hard because we try to be very picky about when we produce these cards because we want to make sure that they really kind of set a new performance marker and a design marker. And many times the design for these cards can take us upwards of a year to a year and a half of designing everything. So it's a very long-term process. So it's not something that always happens like every year. But I will tell you that, you know, Asus VGA team is always very busy. So, you know, I definitely would say that I can't tell you if there's something that's coming down the pipe, but I would feel confident saying that for sure you haven't seen the last super high-end Asus graphics card.
Cool. Okay.
Mysterious things to look forward to in the future.
Of these questions, I like the most, I guess this one here from Oogie Boy. He asks, have you guys tested LC Tech's solid-state Doctor software yet?
I have not, no.
I have not either.
Cool. And I'm not even familiar with it at all. So I guess that wraps up our questions.
All right. Paul? That wraps up the questions. Yeah, thanks to all you guys who've been watching, and especially to those of you who may have stuck with us through the entire time, despite I think we had a dropout and we had one audio thing that I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for any of you whose ears were damaged by that particular incident. We'll see if we can edit that out in post. We should be posting this video to our YouTube channel as well, so you guys will have an archive of it you can go and view. But JJ, thank you so much. He's been here all day with us. We shot some other videos as well, so we'll be posting those on our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Newegg. And yeah, thanks to all you guys for watching. Thanks to our entire Newegg TV crew who's been here and there and all over the place. Jenny, who already took off. Kyle, of course. Steve's been behind the scenes, and he jumped in here at the end as well. And I think that's all for this live stream. Thanks for watching, guys. We don't have a regular schedule for the live streams yet, but we're working on getting that a bit more in.
Cooler Master next month for sure. We don't have the exact date ironed in yet. Probably about a week prior we'll have it all locked down, and we'll let you guys know. So. Yeah,
so stay tuned to Newegg TV. You can follow our Twitter feeds as well, and we'll be announcing them there. And that's all for this one. So thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you later.